gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Built by the Barndominium Company, served by Chicken Cock Whiskey, and part of the Chief Sports Network.
Juice Wells, all the way, touchdown Gamecocks.
Pressure, and he just dives in.
Dozier, notice.
J.C. Sherberg, Phil Molinax, and Jamie Bradford.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios. They are the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. We, of course, are built by the Barndo Co., the barndominiumco.com. If you're going to build a dream home, as somebody mentioned to me this past weekend, that's where you want to go, the barndominiumco.com in the Carolinas, Georgia, or in Tennessee. Chicken Cock Whiskey luckily was able to get us through the weekend. Gamecock football falls to Clemson, and the season is over. 16-7 the final score at Williams-Brice Stadium on a chilly Saturday night. And Carolina will now turn their attention into what they need to do to get back into bowl season and get things back on track. We'll talk about all of that today with John Whittle and, of course, with Pat DiMarco, Talkin Ball, coming up here in just about an hour or so with the former Gamecock. JC, JB, and Phil, glad to be with you. We hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend outside of the outcome of the ball game. It was a pretty crazy weekend when it came to the rivalry stuff. Clearly what happened down in Auburn and places all across the country, there was almost some major upheaval at the top of the polls. So we'll get to all that. We got championship weekend coming up. Gamecock basketball's got a big week as well with Notre Dame walking in tomorrow night. But clearly people want to talk about what happened now falling after winning that last year, guys, and we're hoping you could find them put together 2 in a row, maybe start a little streak of their own. This is once again Clemson State in football after that defensive performance by the Tigers. It was good. If you would have told me, I'll just lead it off with this, and we'll kind of get right into it. I know nobody wants us to just, toy around. If you would have told me before the game, the Gamecock defense themselves will give up 3 field goals, I would have said they might have not scored a lot of points, but they won. There's no doubt. And they did not. But the defense finished the year on a high note, and the offense, once again, just could not move the football. Guys, good morning. Good to see both of you. What's happening? Nice visor, JC.
Yeah, it's a Sandlapper Outdoors. Go purchase stuff from the Garnet line. It helps Carolina rise and helps a Gamecock startup. It's not Gamecock branded or Carolina Rise branded, so to speak, but some really cool stuff if you're kind of outdoorsy and like the emblem or the logo there or whatever. And now they don't have visors. He custom made this for me because my head's too big. I can't wear a hat. So it's just hats and shirts. But anyway, we'll just want to give a shout out to those guys. But look, it's just a disappointing night. It's been a weird year. I wrote this on thebigspur.com. It just a woefully inconsistent season in terms of which sides of the ball are up, which side of the ball is down. Side. I'm still in Thanksgiving mode talking about sides here. But it's just unpredictable. Injuries had a part in it. Wasn't everything. Like I said, I'm with JB, and you told me Clemson was not going to score an offensive touchdown in the game. I'd have been like, oh, Carolina's got this one. I mean, if you'd have told me their field goal kicker would have the night he did, I'd have said you were crazy because he's been woefully inconsistent all year, and he looks like a Lou Groza candidate out there Saturday night. Carolina's offense didn't do much, and there's no other way to spin it. I know Dowell Loggins is getting some heat about it, and it was not his best game. It was not the line's best game at all. It was not anybody on offense's best game, Spencer Rattler, Xavier Legette included. I know everybody tends to want to find one thing to blame or one person to blame. It's never that easy when you have a situation like that and a game like that. It's all of the above. And so I just it was a tough way to lose that one. I don't think Clemson is the team that anybody should fear, especially with their struggles on offense. Carolina's defensive kids played well. They still gave up 219 yards on the ground. But you know what? I think you take that if you make them that one-dimensional, right? And they only threw for 100 yards. And Carolina offensively just couldn't do anything. And I said last week, Dabo does not mind winning ugly when he does not have the horses on offense. And this was an example of how they are very difficult to beat if they get up. And sure enough, first play of the game, they're up. And after Spencer threw the interception on the second play, I was like, this could be a long night. But Gamecocks battled back. It's one of those things. And I don't know what I'm sugarcoating here, Corey, but whatever. I knew I'd hear some really lunatic comments today, and I'm going to ignore most of them. I don't think I'm sugarcoating anything. You want to talk about Dowell Loggins? That's fine. They're 2-10 if he's not dialing up the ball plays this year. So if you take that over 5-7, that's your business. I'll just be honest with you there. Was it his best night Saturday? No. I'm not absolving him for blame from it, because they're just even the trick play that worked. And I know we're all attached to outcomes here when it comes to play calling. It's tough to separate it, right? That was very risky, it didn't work really. If it weren't for Luke Doty and a hell of an effort to get in the end zone, and hats off to him for doing it, they're stopped. So I'm not telling you that, Dowell had this great game. I'm just saying you always look at the body of work as with anything. So, it's just one of those things. Loggins was awful, just as we all predicted him to be. No, that's not true. Anybody knows football will tell you that, man. I mean, you're equating outcomes with good play calling and bad play calling. And sometimes it's just not that easy. It's not so much goes into an outcome, not just a play call. This is not Xbox. This is real life. So, I just one of the things you gotta bury it and move on. Unfortunately, it's going to last all off season with no bowl. And the focus needs to turn to what does this program do to get better? And yeah, I said it, dude. I mean, look, play calling. Do you think they win the Mississippi State game without, or they're not even in the game with Florida? Do they beat Kentucky without him mustering a drive together against that defense late? No. That's all play calling, man. And and when things go bad, that's not all play calling either. Good or bad. Vanderbilt, they didn't really wasn't a bunch of genius play calls in that one. They just beat them. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the scheme and the calls and the idea, I mean, it's night and day from last year. And it's not just that he's better than Marcus Satterfield. He's actually really good. And again, best play caller in the history of college football was here and got shut out. Had games where he scored 7 points. And most of the time it was because the offensive line stunk. So I mean, I don't know where everybody's memory's at here, but, think about that. It's really hard to dial them up without an offensive line. And again, I'm not saying he had a good game. Oh, there's nothing wrong with the play call on Saturday night. I'm not saying that necessarily. Everybody has an off game, bad time to pick it. But this whole Dowell Loggins, everybody's wrong, right about that. That's crap, man. I mean, that's just taking an outcome and blaming coaching, and that's the easiest thing in the world to do, and you guys are better than that.
Well, when it
you
comes,
gotta consider too that a lot of these people hollering for Logan's head were hollering for Coach White's head 3 weeks ago. So
Well,
yeah,
it's like
I mean,
I get it. I understand the passion and all of that, but yeah, I mean, you can't go out there and give that kind of performance without an undue amount of scrutiny. But I agree with you, JC. I mean, there's no what? Okay, switch play callers from how good did Garrett Riley do Saturday?
oh yeah,
Would you
everybody's
consider that a
jumping off a
masterful offensive
bridge.
plan?
Yeah, and you know why? They don't have a lot of playmakers on the perimeter,
Right.
and they don't. They basically have their two backs and Cade. And they just kind of run this little option game and go for it. But look, it's just one of those things, And look, Bruin, I promise you, it's it with Sellers next year. They're not stupid. I mean, they're not. You're not going to see the same kind of deal. You're going to see a lot of quarterback running. And keep in mind where he came from. I mean, don't. You can't. Again, it's not as black and white as anything. And please ban Shadow of Death Valley. I'm not looking at.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, this clown. It's go back to your mother's basement. So that's it. I mean, and I get it, and I'm not going to sit here and staunchly defend the coaches all show, because there are some coaching issues. A blind person can see that if you take the body of work the whole year. But I think those that just want to blame offensive play calling for every single thing, and I know after a game like that, what's going on, but you got to look at the body of work and got to go kind of look at the complete picture, and then kind of South Carolina's got some roster building to do. They've got some retention to do. They got some work to do in the portal, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think a couple of things here. First of all, they'll be better off just continuing to play this game in the upstate, because the last 4 games that have been played in Williams-Brice Stadium, this offense has combined for a total of 2 touchdowns in 16 quarters. That's the last 4 games.
Crazy.
Going back to 17, 19, 21, 23. Clemson has walked right in and walked right out with very little issue. And but I think that's a big way of putting this season from an offensive standpoint, in my opinion, into one little glass box here. And I think that the word is consistency. They have been very inconsistent, and now that's the broad term. So you got to figure out why that is. I was talking to Bill and Preston this morning, and I mentioned to those guys the 2014 team. If we go back to that 2014 team, statistically, it's the best offense in the history of the school. Now, they only won 7 games that year because defensively they really, really struggled. And, of course, they blew 3 13 or 14-point leads in the fourth quarter, if we all remember. Kentucky, Missouri, and Tennessee that year. I think Missouri and Tennessee were both at home, and Kentucky was on the road, if our memory serves me correctly. But what you also had there, with all of those points, and as good as that offense was, JC and Phil, you had by the end of the year, by about halfway through the year, towards the end of the year, you had a 2-star running back named Brandon Wilds, who was the 5th string guy. Remember how thin talking about how thin this running back room is. Think about how thin that they didn't have anymore. That was it. Brandon Wilds was it. And so you had a 2-star running back, and you had a 2-star quarterback named Dylan Thompson. Of course, he'd been around a little while, under Coach Spurrier, and had come in and won some games when Connor went down and things like that. But he was still a 2-star quarterback, and you looked at how good that offense was. Well, was that all because of Coach Spurrier? Well, of course not. Largely, you could say that he's the greatest play caller we've ever seen. But they were really good up front. That's why. And they had a bunch of playmakers on the outside that were, a lot of those guys went on to the NFL, really good players. But they were all allowed to go play ball because they had 5 guys up front who did a really good job. In the postseason here, if somebody asks me, what is priority number 1 at South Carolina, it is getting that offensive line just back to serviceable. And I know that partly it has to do with getting them healthy, and partly has to do with with growing up and, getting guys, young talent developed and a little bit older and stronger and all those type things. But I'm sure there's more to it. I'm sure there's some coaching stuff and trying to figure out how they fit in the scheme and all kinds of things. If I'm in that room and nobody there's going to ask me my opinion, that's priority number one. Like, let's just talk ball. Let's throw all this, fire everybody out the window and all that stuff. I understand that. It's an emotional time when you get beat by your rival and when you're not going to a bowl game. People don't want to see that. And I agree with them 100%. And I feel like everybody should be emotional about it. And that's good because people care. But, like, why is it happening? Why is it happening? Why is it happening? And I feel like on the offensive side, that's it. On the defensive side of the football, guess what, guys? They got to get more butt up front too, right? JC, I think you've already written about that. They got to get some more rear end up there. I got to figure out why it takes some at times a little bit too long to make some adjustments. I don't know what that answer is. I'm not a coach, but I think if we go back, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, but if we go back about 4 to 6 weeks, guys, do y'all remember when they first started, they were really struggling on defense, and I don't want this to be self-serving, but I looked in this camera here and I said I truly believed it's not a talent issue. I felt like it wasn't a talent issue. And I mean, if the last 3 weeks haven't proved that, I'm not really sure. Like they need to get better up front. Don't misunderstand. But my point was they had enough talent to be a lot better than they were showing. And clearly, look what they've done in the last 3 games. Regardless of the fact of who it was, were those offensive juggernauts? Well, no, they weren't. But they still went out there and played really, really well. Got a bunch of turnovers and all those type things. And so, there are things that need to be looked at, examined, and fixed in the offseason. I don't think they're that far away. Now, far away from what? 10 wins? Yeah, they're probably a little bit further away from that than we'd like to be. But 7 wins, 8 wins with a chance to maybe get 1 or 2 more, keep yourself in a game where you got a chance to do something special. They're not that far away from that. I mean, they were a couple of bad plays away from 6 wins already this year. They screwed that up in the Florida game. So they're not that far away. There's a few things that they need to get fixed, and then of course attrition is going to come. And what does that look like? But it's disappointing. It's disappointing. But I feel like a sensible approach to this is let's talk about the problems and what needs to be fixed, and then the coach has to figure out how to do that.
Exactly. Brad, I never predicted Jordan would get 1,000 yards. I don't know where the hell you're getting that from. That's the dumb. I mean, I never said that. Never, ever, not once. And you can laugh all you want, Brian. You guys are part of the problem if you're going to sit here and throw crap like that in my face today. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't come at me with lies or what you think is said. This Elijah Caldwell thing, same thing. Elijah Caldwell, you can ask anybody at the program, doing really good in the underwear Olympics out there with no pads on, running routes. Yeah. But anybody that knows anything about sports knows that when you put the pads on, it's a different game. Guess what? He couldn't contribute. Tough. He was promising in out there just throwing it, right? A lot of kids are. I still remember guys when I played. Mm-hmm. And you look over there in November and their uniforms clean because once the pads came on, they quit being good. And that's what happened there. Not saying he's never going to be good, but that's what happened. So I never said that. That's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm not hearing any of that today either.
Yeah, and I know somebody, disagree with me about a talent issue. It wasn't on defense. I mean, were they going to be Georgia? No. I mean, I don't think anybody's expecting that, but they were certainly capable of being a lot better than they were on the defensive side of the football. I mean, all those games where they were giving up 30, 41, 41, 34, 30, like they were better than that. And we can prove that by 16, 14, 6, and 28 in that Jacksonville State game was a nightmare, and they couldn't tackle. And then what did they do? They went to something that utilized. I mean, you can say that I'm, coming up with this on my own. I'm coming up with this because, and I know we got John Whittle coming up, but I'm coming up with this because, I talk to guys who know a lot more than I do. And what did they do? They went out and got their players on the field. Now, we just talked about this a little while ago, JC. You can have the discussion all day long. We all can about why wasn't some of this maybe examined earlier, or maybe it was, and they were apprehensive to make a change. I don't know that answer. Those are the answers we need to figure out. But there was no way 4 or 6 weeks ago I was throwing all this on the players, because they had enough players on the defensive side of the ball to be a lot better than they were. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen that.
Now,
So
two
the
things
proof's
that
in the
happened.
pudding.
Two things happened on defense positively. Number one, Bam Martin Scott. Getting him on the field, I think, helped against the run specifically, and then gave Clayton White more options to as pass rushing, because he loves to send his linebackers, and that's Bam Martin Scott's game. I mean, he's a good pass rusher. I think that's number one. I think number two, that allowed the secondary to tighten up.
Mm-hmm.
The secondary tightened up a bit, and Nick Emenware started playing a whole lot better. The corners started playing a whole lot better. DQ Smith, those guys, Kilgore, who actually was pretty good all year. And I think, moving to that kind of scheme helped. And yeah, Bam Martin Scott does have another year. So that's good. You get him and Debo Williams back next season. And so that helped. And look, I'm a little mixed as far as my personal preference as to whether South Carolina is a 3-3-5 school. I think that when you're in the recruiting footprint you're in the Carolinas, you should be able to. I questioned when North Carolina did it, because I was like, they should be able to recruit 4 down every day of the week and twice on Sunday, because it's D-line heaven, right? But then I also think back to Charlie Strong when he was here, and he ran this kind of defense, and guess what? It worked. And those were 2 of the best defensive teams in the history of in the SEC era in 00 and 01. So I don't know, I guess whatever, and it's not like, I want to clarify this too. It's not like Clayton White decided, we're going to scrap what we're doing and run 3-3-5. He didn't install a whole new defense. That's his package, or his package. His defensive scheme is designed to have, just like Will Muschamp's, multiple downs. He just called more than 3-3-5, as we went along. So, so we'll see what happened, and walk on long step. And that's it helped Stone Blanton too, I think, because it kept him in the box.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier. Like those are the questions that need to be answered about making changes and things like that. Those are very absolutely worthy of being asked. And this football program needs to answer those questions for themselves. I don't care if they answer them to me. They need to answer those internally. Like, what do we need to do to be able to make quicker adjustments? We've talked about that all year, in game and post game adjustments. That's been an issue. And but we got to hit a timeout. John Whittle wants to join the conversation. He's been waiting patiently, so we'll step aside quickly. John Whittle with the Big Spur up next here on ITG.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville and online at palmcasual.com. Gamecock owned and operated.
That's Khalil Barnes going into the end zone.
Arrived at South Carolina in 2003 after growing up in Virginia, and was dubbed the Winchester Rifle by Gamecocks great Tommy Moody in the broadcast booth. He left in 2006 a legend, a career .315 hitter and 20th round draft pick of the San Diego Padres. Campbell was first all-time in games played, at bats and triples, second all-time in hits with 299, singles and total bases, third all-time in doubles, top 10 in runs scored and RBI, and he hit 31 home runs in his career for the Gamecocks. Now he's passing his knowledge to the next generation through his business, Soup's Swing Shop. If your son or daughter wants to improve their game, Soup's Swing Shop offers virtual lessons. Mike will connect with you, diagnose your swing, and create a special game plan to help improve it. Call him at 859-414-8240. Email soupsswingshop@gmail.com or find them on social media and on the Chief Sports app. Soup's Swing Shop. Play ball.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
John Whittle joining. I didn't expect to get that text from you right before I welcomed you on the air, but John joining us here at 11:27. Hey, buddy.
Well, I'm not CC'd on this one.
No,
it's the inside. CC is just for them.
It was about a
Keeping
commercial.
things from me. I know. I'm a little volatile today. So
I just, I just, John. A lot of people don't realize.
It was about one of the advertisers.
Yeah.
Advertisements.
I have an idea. I have an idea what that was about, so that's okay. I'll leave it to you folks.
I mean, I guess I could just say it. I mean, it would be a free promo for Gamble, right? I mean, John just saying he knew somebody who had a big crush on Michael Campbell. So that's all you're saying.
That's a big, I should have thought about the sport.
She probably still does, but that's fine.
I'll leave it to you baseball fellas to
well, I thought you were easily gonna say like, let's I want to talk about this or something, and that just caught me off guard. So, and I've been kind of sick. I caught a whatever this crap is, literally Saturday, and so I've been trying not to like laugh a whole lot because my throat's been kind of hurting. But so I appreciate that, John. Thanks. Well, they got beat. So, from your vantage point, what'd you see on Saturday?
I thought that, and I think JC said this too. I may be wrong. You can correct me. I kind of thought this game would be a little bit lower scoring than, maybe the line would indicate, and maybe the general thought process would indicate. I kind of liked, what South Carolina had been doing on the defensive side of the ball, and to not allow a touchdown was surprising to me. For it to be more of a defensive battle, didn't really take me off guard. But I certainly thought South Carolina would be able to be more productive offensively. And the first play of the game was certainly a good one. 18 yards to Leggett, and then I thought there were yards there on that little swing pass. Backward pass, which I thought it was backwards. I thought it was lateral. And, like that ball, you throw that ball to Leggett, that was picked off every time. You just throw it better. I thought there were yards out there. I thought there were things open, and then all of a sudden there just weren't to go from, that touchdown drive in the first quarter to, what the next 6 or 7 possessions looked like. Which yielded a total of single-digit yards, or maybe it was 1 yard. I think it was 1 yard over the next either 6 or 7 possessions in total. It's just mind-boggling to me, absolutely mind-boggling. And I know Clemson has a good defense, but they don't have a great defense this year. Certainly nothing like what we've seen out of them. Yeah, they've got a couple pretty good linebackers, and their defensive line plays hard, but they've given up yards and scores all year. And South Carolina just couldn't figure it out. And that's what was most disappointing, to have one of your best, probably your most talented quarterback ever, and second best receiving season ever in terms of yards receiving. Have those guys go out like that. Really, really disappointing.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no question, John. I mean, you've heard this theory already, and we've already hit it here. If you would have told us that the Tigers wouldn't score an offensive touchdown Saturday night, well, Carolina won the game. But that didn't happen. And so it really, anything that happened doesn't matter anymore as far as having a conversation about it. What the conversation should be centered around is what are they going to do to fix the things that they need to fix. If I asked you, what is priority number one in the offseason, what is it in your mind?
Well, is fixing both lines of scrimmages for me. And, those are obviously big deals. With the defensive line, I mean, you've got a nice base there. You can get everybody back. I mean, there were some flashes from some guys, and I thought Tonka Hemingway had a fairly good back half of the season. I thought TJ Sanders had a really good season overall. Alex Huntley was okay. But that group as a whole just isn't nearly good enough. And there didn't seem to be any guys who were like on the cusp of doing something great. It just, nothing really seemed to come together, especially at that edge position. So you've got to upgrade talent tremendously there. I mean, offensive line, I think you're headed in the right direction in terms of your recruiting and some of the young guys already on campus, but you got to keep them improving and get those guys healthy. I mean, I think injuries derailed that group as much as anything. We all thought coming into the year that you had some older, experienced guys who you thought you could manage your way through for a bit and perform well enough, and there were some some younger guys who are more talented, and you could kind of grow them up and throw them in when they were ready. Well, the old guys didn't perform very well. Some guys got hurt. You had to throw some freshmen in before they were ready, and it was just a recipe for disaster there. But I think in general, in terms of personnel, you're going in the right direction from that standpoint. You just got to keep coaching them up and get them healthy. From the defensive line standpoint, I don't know that the direction from a personnel standpoint is anywhere close to where you need it to be, and if it's going in the right direction, because there's nobody really in the recruiting classes right now that you can speak of, that you can point to. From an interior standpoint, you've got some guys on the edge who you like, but from an interior standpoint, I mean, that's a struggle right there. I mean, you've got to find some guys in the portal. So, addressing both lines of scrimmages should be priority 1A.
I 100% agree with that. I want to lump JC into this because he's the expert on recruiting, and let you two kind of hash it out. I'm just going to tee it up and step to the side, though. We know what's committed from a high school standpoint on the offensive line, and you can make the argument they've got a top probably 2 or 3 offensive line class in the country right now. Maybe the top tackle class, that's for sure. But so a couple of things here. JC, will defensive line – I mean, I know, like I read what you said this when we talk about this all the time, but if you had to pick one position that is just going to absolutely get the bulk of the priority to kind of rejuvenate it, would it be defensive line? That's part A of this question. And B, is it fair to say that signing offensive linemen out of the transfer portal is probably the most difficult position to lure really good talent from?
I think so. I think D tackle to a certain extent is too, and D end is really hard. Carolina was pretty fortunate to get Jordan Strawn, and I know he didn't have his best year, but coming back from that type of knee injury, he certainly was okay and did have a really good game against Kentucky and made a difference. Edge has been kind of an issue for a while. I do think there's help on the way with Dylan Stewart, hopefully Cam Fountain. Desmond Umeozulu is a young player that's got a lot of promise.
No doubt.
You've got you could get Montague Rames back out of junior college, depending. So you got some light at the end of the tunnel there. To tackle, no, and part of it's because the top 5-6 guys on the board all went to Georgia. I mean, I don't know how many D tackles they're planning on taking down there, but they took everybody Carolina liked and was in good position for. Carolina finished second on most of those guys, and it's hard. And then the second part of it is Travian Robertson got here like in June, and recruiting nowadays, man, that's late because of the early signing period. And it's tough to go establish relationships, and it's tough to get out there and kind of find guys and things like that. So they're going to have to go in hard in the portal, off D tackle. Now, last year they were in on a couple. And you do have, I'm going to back up. You do have guys coming back. I mean, Boogie could come back, technically. Taka could come back, technically. TJ Sanders will be back, hopefully. But you need some guys that
you need some butt.
You need some guys,
big old butt up there.
Big old guys. And and if you're going to stick with a 3-3-5, you need a nose, a big nose. Now, when I talked about when Charlie Strong was here, he didn't really have the big 330-pound guy like you see at Alabama or Georgia in the middle. I think Cleveland Pickney was the nose tackle, Langston Moore, those guys. And they were good and athletic, so it can be done. But, man, it's so much more helpful when you got a guy inside that draws double teams every single play like a monster. And maybe this kid from Bamberg that's at junior college that's 6'7", 330, whatever, maybe he can do it. I don't know. But that's got to be a point of emphasis. I think receiver and running back on offense have to be a point of emphasis and all that good stuff. And just want to comment on another asinine comment. The O-line coach loves FCS players. Well, the one FCS player that started most of the year is probably one of your best offensive linemen. And then, no, I think he loves 4- and 5-star guys too, because that's what he's recruiting. So sorry to PP on your parade there, man, but just another wrong comment. But look, I think that's the deal there. I think you got to, you got to kind of get some beef on the inside, John, and Edge may have to be young for a while. If you can find a guy, great. But I don't know. Those guys are pretty hard to go get. Don't you think, John?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody wants more pass rush. Everybody needs more linemen, and there's schools out there who will pay big money for them. So it's difficult to get. I mean, losing Gilbert Edmond last year was I think a surprise to pretty much everybody. And he goes to Florida State, and they obviously have a great NIL program going on down there. And you gotta hold on to your guys that you think can be good, like a Desmond Umeozulu or whoever else, because anybody who goes into the portal from that defensive line position is gonna get snapped up.
Yeah, John, I made the comment earlier about the 2014 team. You covered that team. The offense was statistically the best to ever do it at South Carolina. By the end of the year, there was a 2-star running back named Brandon Wilds, and the whole year there was a 2-star quarterback named Dylan Thompson. And that team just ran out there and put up a bunch of points. They just couldn't stop anybody on defense. And so, I'm one of those guys that believes everything will fall into place when you're just really good up front. And I just don't see, like, they're going to sign running backs. They might not be the caliber of running backs that fans want to see or whatever it is, but nobody even talked when Brandon Wilds got signed here and Dylan Thompson, nobody even talked about those guys. And they ended up being integral parts of the greatest offense we've ever seen because they could block up front. So I'm just one of those guys that I'm just firmly of the belief that if you get it fixed up there, the rest of it can fall into place, especially when you got a good quarterback like they've got coming next year in Lenore Sellers.
Yeah, and Sellers will be helpful in terms of his mobility, right? Like, you don't have to be as perfect with Sellers as your quarterback as you did a Dylan Thompson. So, these guys we're talking about, a lot of these guys are still younger. Your Tree Babalade, Javon Ball, Marquis Anderson, the freshmen who will be coming in, they're all still young. Hopefully you can bring Vershawn Lee back, who I thought had a really good season. well, I say really good. I'm not sure anybody had a really good season when the offensive line performs the way that it did. He had a good season overall, I thought. But your quarterback next year is going to have to be able to move a little bit, because it's not going to be perfect next year. It's going to be a little bit better, but it's not going to be perfect next year. It's going in the right direction, I feel like. So, having some mobility at quarterback will be helpful. But you're right, a good offensive line masks those or can elevate good talent like a Dylan Thompson and a Brandon Wild. So I'm with you 100% on your point.
But what do you think the impact of the injury is, John? I mean, when we come back next year, if let's say you maintain what you have and you finally get these injured guys back on the field, are we going to be like, oh, wow, this is what they were talking about? I mean, is that the kind of talent that we were lacking this year due to injury?
Well, some of it, maybe a little bit. I think it was more the revolving door and not having the continuity up front than some of the actual injuries. I mean, obviously you lose Jalen Nichols in the spring, but you had time to kind of plan around that one. You lose Case and Henry in the fourth snap of the season, I guess. But I'm not sold that he's the tackle of the future, to be honest. That's just me, and I may be really wrong. JC would have better insight than I would, but he's been injured since he got here. And, when you're injured from basically the entire time you're here, for 2 years, it's hard to count on the guy. And, that guy's got more braces and pads on him than he's got weight. So I'm not sold on that injury necessarily derailing South Carolina from an offensive line standpoint. I think when you have that many injuries, you have that much rotation going on, you got that many guys moving positions over the course of the year, I think that hurts as much as anything, just having such little continuity there. That was the biggest issue for me in terms of injury. I think Marquis Anderson would have been playing a lot, and obviously Jalen Nichols. So I'm not saying the injuries weren't bad individually, but I think the totality of it hurt the continuity more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, just like against Florida, they finally found probably the best game the O-line played was Florida. And they finally find something with Lee out at tackle, and then boom, he gets hurt and is out for 3 weeks. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm not making excuses because once they got for the last 4 games, they started the same 5, and they still couldn't get a push in the run game or whatever. I'll say this too, though, I'm not convinced all those guys up front were playing at 100%. In fact, I know they probably were not. A lot of them.
I know 100%. 3 of them weren't.
Yeah,
but they were playing. But I know 3 of them weren't.
That's true. I mean, I did that. And Johnny Rambo, nobody said, we're not sitting there saying nobody should get fired. I never said anything about that. Neither did JB.
No, I've never said that.
Insane.
That's coming up here in just a second. I too. I mean, look, they lost, and that at the end of the day, that's the point of the conversation. They got beat. Does anybody know when the last time Clemson was held without an offensive touchdown was? As I haven't looked for it, but I'm going to check if nobody comes up with that answer before I do. That's got to have been years, right, guys? I mean, like years. They always score.
So, I can't think of anything offhand, but I would imagine it's been quite a while.
Oh, I would imagine
Clemson scoring an offensive touchdown. Yeah, I don't.
I
lifetime.
I couldn't even begin to come up with how long that's. I mean, that just goes to show you, like. I know that that's not that elite Tigers offense we've been seeing mostly over the last, 13 or 14 years, but they can score.
2014, sorry to interject there. 2014 at Louisville was the last time Clemson did not score an offensive touchdown.
Okay, so it's been 10 seasons since that happened. So that's a major hat tip to the Gamecock defense. John, Shane, I think if we figured out anything about Shane Beamer since he's been here, Shane Beamer works on Shane Beamer's timeline. Like it, love it, whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's how he works when it comes to making personnel decisions, either in the locker room, from a team standpoint, or on the coaching staff. What do you anticipate the timeline looking, or what do you anticipate the next couple of weeks looking like? I don't know it's not fair to ask you if you anticipate any changes or not. So I'm not doing that, but do you think that those things are at least being considered? And with the portal opening and early signing period coming up, based on what we know about Shane Beamer, what are we looking at here with this football program over the next, 14, 21 days or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. I certainly think that that he's considering making some changes. The timing of it all is probably a little bit on a case by case basis. All right, who are you trying to hire in place of somebody else, and when can you get that coach? If it's a coach on a staff that's been fired or somebody who is ready to move on and you can get it done quickly, then maybe you go ahead and do it. Some of these coaches maybe don't want to move before signing day from their own place. There's some things to weigh. You can't always necessarily convince a guy to come in immediately, and some of these teams still have conference championship games, and some want to be a part of signing day or their bowl game or what have you. And, it may just, the timing may not be quite to where you want, quite to where it happens quickly or immediately. So, I'm certain that Shane is evaluating some things over there. I like you said, he moves very methodically. So I would be a little bit surprised if anything happened in the very immediate future.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You agree
I'm
with that,
with you
JC?
there.
Well, I mean, you got two schools with new head coaches, both at A&M and at Mississippi State. So you do wonder if when movement starts, it could, as we all know, it could be a trickle down effect. So you might have coaches moving around, not because you fired them, but because they're moving around for other,
Right.
got other things going on.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely a fair point. That's absolutely a fair point too, is there's going to be guys retained, guys looking for jobs, and some folks who are just ready to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen, but you're right. Shane's going to move on his own timeline. Is that my preference? No. I would have liked to have seen some heads roll today. I'm not going to get into who, but because that kind of takes the Band-Aid off and gets everybody looking forward. But he's not going to do that, and he's not going to change how he does things. I mean, that's just one thing. And look, most head coaches that want to be good at they don't. There's no right or wrong answer there. I mean, the clock is not ticking on some great hire that you've got to go make, or you're not going to get him or whatever. So that's the deal there with whatever. So, and we'll see. And there's really no circumstance where I'm going to sit here and tell anybody, despite some moronic John Edward Kruger over here acting like an idiot, saying just untruthful things about the show. There's no planet where I'm going to sit here and tell you guys that there shouldn't be any coaching changes. All right, and I don't think we all sat here and advocated for that. Any of y'all sitting here, sunshine and everything's hunky dory, and everybody should just stand pat and no changes after a 5-7 year and a performance like that? Anybody here, raise your hand.
No, I mean, I think that there probably will be changes, and I think there probably should be some changes, based on what we've seen in its totality. One of the things I'll be interested to see too is what does Arkansas do? Because I know that a lot of people in our fan base are very frustrated with Coach Loggins right now, and it's fine. But Arkansas isn't. They're very fond of him. And Sam Pittman is, what would y'all call this, guys? Has he been rented for one final year?
This is his last call, man. I mean, I watched their game against Missouri. John, did you catch any of that game?
Very little. Did KJ Jefferson go out in the first quarter? Did I see that?
He went out. There was a fight or two. Arkansas players just kind of gave up in front of our eyes.
It was
Missouri slaughtered them 48-14.
It was very.
That's supposed to be a rivalry, right?
It almost the red line rivalry. It hurt to watch it. It hurt to watch it. I agree with you. Like the lack of discipline. It was almost like none of us care. We're gonna do it. You know what? I'll tell you what it was. It was very similar to the fight at Clemson, because it felt like, you know what I mean? Hey, I don't even know if my coach is going to be here another year. I'm probably going to transfer anyways. Like, there's a lot of emotion going on. Nobody really running out there in that uniform. I'm not an Arkansas guy, so I couldn't tell you that. But that's what it looked like. And so I'm anxious to see what happens in Fayetteville. Are they going to start cleaning some house here? I mean, what are they doing? And how does that affect other schools? And how does that affect South Carolina? My hunch would be that it would probably affect this program in some way, shape, or form. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think keep your eye on Arkansas and what they do. Now, do I think Dowell Loggins is going to be the guy out there? I don't know. It's just, I think a lot of times coaches are, if this were year 2 or 3, maybe. But a lot of times coaches are someplace 1 year and they don't really, it's tough to move on after a year. So we'll see sort of what happens. But yeah, I'd watch that. And if I'm Arkansas's Hunter Yurachek, I'm sitting there feeling like a fool, because you say, okay, well, we're gonna rally around the pit boss, and and then the next game you have your worst game ever.
Yeah. Hey, are you? One of the things that Shane has been really focused on here in hiring coaches, if there is a coach that ends up needing to be hired, is hiring guys who can recruit. John, ideally you hire a guy who can recruit and develop. But if you have to err on one side or the other right now, what is better with where this program is 3 years into his tenure?
It depends on the position for me. Like if you're a running back coach, you're hiring a recruiter more than a coach, in my opinion. I mean, offensive line, you've got to hire the best coach out there, in my opinion. I think it depends on the position a little bit, and your lines of scrimmage. You've got to be able to get guys ready to go and take what you have to work with, and squeeze every bit of blood out of that turnip that you can get with each player. So that, it's great to have a Sterling Lucas, and I'm not saying Sterling Lucas is a bad coach, but Sterling Lucas, I think, is a pretty elite recruiter, and it's great to have that there at that edge position. But man, you got to have a great coach there too. You got to have a great coach with your tackles. You got to have a great coach on your offensive line. I don't know that South Carolina is going to be looking for any guys at any of those positions or not, but that's where I'm hiring coach before recruiter.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
there. Holtz or Muschamp made changes every single year. Johnny Rambo, by the way, Holtz changed 5 guys after 63-17, 6 guys, including demoting his son. So get out of here with that crap.
Yeah,
John,
it makes absolutely no sense.
Before we let you run, John, tomorrow night, it looks like it is going to be just a fantastic crowd at the Colonial Life Arena to watch them take on Notre Dame in the ACC SEC Challenge, with a chance to go 6-0. And if they do go 6-0, and you look at the schedule in the month of November, the most difficult challenge they'll have is heading up the road to Clemson. But boy, it sure looks manageable to have a really spectacular non-conference before they enter SEC play. John, some quick thoughts on the Hoops guys as they get ready to get back on the floor tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. $5 tickets available as well, and some decent tickets still available. A few lower levels that you can get for $5. Not many of those left, but still a few out there. I was looking at Ticketmaster earlier today just to get a sense of what the crowd would look like tomorrow night, and there aren't a whole heck of a lot of tickets available. No. So should be a really, really nice crowd. But it's a fun team to watch so far. They've been shooting the ball really well. They play tough defensively. They play hard. I really like what I've seen. I mean, they don't have a really difficult non-conference schedule overall, but Virginia Tech's not bad. Grand Canyon's not bad. Notre Dame's not very good, but Clemson's pretty good. They've still got a couple of decent opponents left before the start of conference play, but you're looking at having a really, really good non-conference record going into the start of non-conference play, then with a couple of tests under your belt too. So, they've responded to some challenges against Grand Canyon and Virginia Tech and come out on the right side. And they've dispatched a couple of teams very easily. And, they gutted out a win against VMI on a day when they didn't play real well. So they've won in a lot of different ways so far, and should be a lot of fun tomorrow night at the Colonial Life Arena.
Looking forward to it, no doubt. Carolina trying to stay undefeated. We'll let you run on that. Did we miss anything? Anything you need to squeeze in here? Any more former Gamecock baseball crushes we need to know about, or is that enough for today?
No, I think we've hit it all for today.
Okay, so. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll see some good info from you tonight in the VIP room with the Big Spur. So we'll keep our eyes on that, and we'll talk next week, brother.
Yeah, a lot of hoops, some recruiting. There'll be some decent stuff in there.
I bet there will be. Thanks, John.
Brother.
Appreciate you guys.
John Whittle, thebigspur.com. Pat's already in. We are out of time. But when we return, the gentleman that's like the backstage cam of College Game Day. Look who's coming up next.
Yeah, right.
They're like the great Pat DiMarco will be joining us here on our program. We'll get into some film, and we will talk about this season as a whole. More than qualified to give his opinion, and we're glad to have him as we always do. Hang tight. We're built by the Barn Dough Co. Inside the Gamecocks today.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering inside the Gamecocks, the show. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter @MayorTaylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
One door opens while another one closes.
Dad, please go today.
Not today, sweetie.
One heart's breaking while another one is mending. It's all in the ebb and flow. If I had to, I could go it alone, but because you've become my home. These windows could shut into the ground. These walls could fall right down, because you've become my home.
We don't have to tell Mom that.
Because you've become my home.
It's time for Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Part of the Chief Sports Network.
All right, hour two. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show, always live from the Sinorama Studios. Thanks to our friends at Gamecock Traditions for keeping us warm this weekend. It was chilly out there at Williams-Brice on Saturday evening. Gamecock Traditions is a one-stop shop this holiday season. You can find them easily right on the Chief Sports app and order it online and have it delivered to your doorstep, even if you're not in the Lexington or Columbia area. That's if you're a Carolina fan and you need something with that logo on it, you're going to want to shop there. GamecockTraditions.com. Pat, it was a packed house on Saturday evening. Williams-Brice was at its best.
Oh, it always is, especially for this matchup. No, it was loud and rowdy, and me and my son Weston did our part. We actually had one of his buddies join us, and it was rocking for sure.
Yeah, it was. Everybody did their part, and then ultimately, they just couldn't get enough points on the board. Pat, we've got plenty of video we'll get to here in just a little while, but we'll just big picture here. I mean, you know this program inside and out as well as anybody who's ever known this program. When you go back to week 1, and now we're through week 12, they finished at 5-7. You know, how would you describe the 23 football season?
I mean, a lot of ebbs and flows, just kind of like most football seasons. A lot of adversity came our way with injuries, and just, played good some games, bad some games. Probably 4 or 5 plays every game were the deciding factors of some of the close ones. Definitely this one. But, yeah, just ups and downs, a typical battle. And, just we weren't able to overcome adversity at times. But we had a lot of young guys play. So, I think the future is bright, and you kind of see where some of the stars do align. Obviously, that doesn't really help us in our situation here, 5-7 missing a bowl game. But you do know that the future is ahead of us. And, it looks like the recruiting class moving forward next year should be another really good class with a lot of key players that'll definitely help us out. And then, who knows what's going to happen with the portal, bringing guys in, losing guys. It's going to be a hodgepodge. And I know Beamer and Co. have done a really good job of developing relationships with our guys in the building now. Watching some of those press conferences post games goes to show you the relationships and the love that is shared in that building. So I think that'll carry some weight moving forward. But yeah, going into the season, I think the height was 8-4. Like, that's kind of what we wanted to, because that's what we had a taste of last year. Obviously, week 1 came up short to a good North Carolina team. And then, didn't play great against Furman, but won. And then played really good the first half against Georgia. Ended up falling a little short. And just honestly, peaks and valleys. Towards the end there, you hated our worst 6 quarters of offense were our last 6 quarters of offense. Of the season. But our best 8 quarters of defense were our last 8 quarters. So, like I said, we never played a complete 3-phase game where we're at our best for 4 quarters in all 3 phases, which, we were able to do that to finish the season last year. Weren't able to put that together at any point this year, but, the coaches and the players are going to work their tails off. The support staff's going to work their tails off this offseason, continue recruiting, continue working. But I feel like you definitely felt the trajectory of the program, those press conferences, watching the seniors leave Willie B for the last time, and the love they have for this place and the love that the coaches have for them. So, hopefully I was kind of around everywhere, but hopefully I kind of got to what you were trying to get.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff in there that I've jotted down. I'm gonna follow up with you about a few of those things. All right, so number one though, let's go to this. Let's go to 2007. It was your freshman year in the program. Started off 6-1, number 6 in the country. Lost 5 straight. Finished 6-6, and missed a bowl game. What was that offseason like? And that you remember as a player? And obviously you're really close with Coach Spurrier. You know, when you're they felt like 05, 06, they had won. They had gone to the postseason. They had won a bowl game. They had beaten Clemson. Okay, we're on a good trajectory. Take a step back in year 3. So walk us through what happened back in and how a staff can overcome something like that. By the way, Shane was on that staff as well.
Yeah, I think it was, extremely disappointing. We were 6-1 and had only lost to LSU. We were 6th in the country and lose to Vanderbilt. And that's kind of where it all started. And then it just kind of went downhill in a very, very quick spiral. Nothing, I wouldn't say anything really changed within the team. There wasn't any animosity or any real conflict. It was just a couple bad instances. Didn't make plays when plays were there. Then it played a tough schedule to finish the season that year too. But losing to Clemson that last game and going 6-6 and not making a bowl game left a really, really crappy taste in our mouths. And obviously I was just a freshman. I was a baby. But the older guys in the building, in the program, definitely took it upon themselves and grabbed some of us young guys and grabbed us by the collar and were like, hey, this crap isn't happening again. We're going to turn this thing around. We're going to have the best offseason we've ever had. We're going to excel in the classroom, in the meeting rooms, in the weight room, on the practice field. Like, this is never going to happen again. And sure enough, we made a bowl game my last 3 years. I think we went 7-5, 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, I think was the last year. It can be a long off season when you have some adversity hit and not really rebound. So I think the best way we addressed it early and often, the older guys, the leaders that were coming back, just like I know Coach Beamer is going to do with the staff now and the leadership that they have now. It's going to be something that they're going to get shaked out early because you don't want it to linger and loom and too much chatter in the locker room. And, at the end of the day, I've probably said this a couple times in this thing, but Dan Quinn, who one of my all-time favorite coaches, we had 3 rules. One was be early, so 5 minutes early was on time. Number 2 was protect the team, so don't do anything to put the team in jeopardy. And 3 was ignore the noise. So ignore all the BS outside noise. What matters is what's in the building, the guys to your left, the guys to your right, and the staff that you're working with day in and day out. I think that those 3 rules kind of cover everything that's going to happen this entire offseason from a professional standpoint, being early, protecting the team. Don't put anybody, any of your teammates, any of your brothers, any of your leaders in jeopardy. And then ignore the noise, put your head down and just go to work. Because I think this team is going to be much more improved in the weight room, in the meeting rooms, and on the practice field. But I think the first key to that is in the weight room. And that's having a heck of a segment of winter workouts, getting bigger, stronger, and faster, more explosive, and then it leads into spring ball. Spring ball leads into summer workouts. Summer workouts leads into camp. So really got to start with phase 1, and that's going to be the winter workouts and going in there and getting as big, strong, and fast as possible because, honestly, Clemson was better in all 3 of those phases than us on Saturday, and that can't happen. So that's going to really start in the weight room, and it's got to be picked up with Coach Day and Coach Morton and staff in there, and they got to really get after and hold our guys accountable and don't let them slack at all.
Pat, you've been around football a lot. All right, so this is a question I get a lot. People blame the strength staff for injuries. Your thoughts on that in general? My thought is there's been 3 different strength staffs here the past 10 years, and injuries have taken place no matter who has been in charge of that. But you know more than me. You've lived it. Can a strength and conditioning program impact injuries in the way that maybe people are thinking?
There's obviously the oddball freak accidents, tearing Nick. You can strengthen your knees, you can strengthen your tendons, you can strengthen the ligaments, you can strengthen the muscle tissue around your joints and stuff like that. But freak things are going to happen. You pop an Achilles, you tear an ACL, you break an arm, fracture a bone in your foot. That's stuff that you can't really control. But the soft tissue injuries are definitely things that can be fixed. Those are, hamstrings, groin strains, maybe popping your shoulder out of place, different things like that can be developed and protected and manipulated. So, I mean, there's definitely things in the weight room that can help with injury prevention, but there's also the freak stuff. Like, it's probably a 15 to 20%. This was zero research behind it, but I would say like a 15 to 20% improvement you can get in the weight room when it comes to those injury things. And I know that Coach Day and that staff do a good job, and so does Clint Haggard and the training staff. Like, they're in there and they're working and they're pushing the guys to get extra work in, because you're only allowed, the 8-hour rule or 4-hour rule, whatever the rule is, but you're only allowed to be in a building for so much, governed and having expectations of what you're supposed to do. Now you can go above and beyond yourself, and that's really what they're pushing to do. And I think that's when you really get a true really good team, and a good professional team is a team that's going to go above and beyond on their own, not having, coaches and people poking at them and telling them what to do. I mean, it's pretty similar. I mean, I've talked about my son Weston, who's 7, but he has dreams of playing for the Gamecocks, and he has dreams of playing. He wants to play Major League Baseball and in the NFL at the same time. And I'm like, buddy, not many people have done that, but I'm going to hold you to it. And if you really want to do it, then you're going to have to do some work without Daddy pushing you to do it, because I kind of challenged him to do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, 10 jump squats every morning, first thing in the morning. And for the first 2 weeks, I was like, did you do workout yet? He's like, oh, no, I forgot. And then I stopped asking him. He's like, Daddy, why aren't you asking me if I'm doing my workout anymore? I'm like, because you're going to be accountable to yourself. Like, if you want to become a superstar like you want to be, Daddy's not going to be the one that's going to have to push you. Like, if you want to get that far, it's going to have to be self-motivation, internally motivated. And sure enough, I look at his little Nest camera every morning now, and he's doing push-ups, sit-ups, and jump squats. So it works.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so he's a 20-30 guy. JC, go ahead and get him in the top 247.
Go ahead and give him a good star rating.
You can follow along with his
Gotta
recruitment.
get him there. Yeah,
he's going to be a heck of a long snapper, guys.
Hey, you know what? Long snappers, they get their school paid for too, Pat. You know that. I think on the injury front, I think more than anything, it's a depth issue. That's just my personal opinion on this. I mean, we've seen tremendous. I mean, that offensive line thing, that does not happen every year. We know that because we watch this team play every year and every other team out there. That was a freak type situation. But, at times in the past, we've had major issues, and they had enough depth and quality coaching to be able to get them through it. I mean, I just use this example. It's the third time I've already done it today. The 2014 team, you weren't on that team, Pat, but we were down to Brandon Wilds as the running back, a 2-star running back out of Blythewood, and Dylan Thompson was a 2-star quarterback, and it was the best offense in the history of the program. Yeah. So, I mean, if you have depth, yes, you'll have bang-ups, but the injuries don't become the conversation because the depth overcomes that, and they're just not there.
What you saying this, what it really comes down to is how you're wired in your head, and that's your mentality. And just because I know Brandon Wiles and I know Dylan Thompson, I know some of those under-recruited players, the Sherrod Golightleys, the Jimmy Legrees, the guys that were not very highly talented recruits that came in here just like myself and were like, screw the stars, screw the recruiting rankings. I'm going to show you why I deserve to be wearing this Block C, why I deserve to be playing at Williams-Brice Stadium. So I think it all comes down to kind of the mentality. I've been pondering this question the last 3 weeks, and maybe you guys can shed some light on it for me. But week 1, we started Sidney Fugar and who's the other left tackle? Hickson, or who's the?
No, week 1 left tackle.
That was Fugar and Cason Henry.
Cason Henry was in there, for 4 plays. Yeah.
And he went down, and then the next kid was who was the other transfer that played?
Oh, the kid from Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackson Hughes.
Jackson Hughes. Yeah, he got hurt.
I mean, when he was done he got hurt and he's done for the year?
Pretty much.
Fugar? Or did Fugar never got back in the roster?
No, Fugar just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
He didn't get hurt. He wasn't.
Yeah, but I mean, how you go through an entire spring, an entire training camp, And granted, I know there were injuries, and maybe the freshmen weren't quite ready, but I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know, just kind of frustrating that you go through all training camp and all summer and you have guys play in the first game, and then you look back week 12 and you're kind of like, where in the heck are these guys? Like, how did they fool us into thinking that they were good enough to play week 1, but they weren't good enough to play week 12? Usually you're supposed to continually get better like our freshmen did. And these guys just kind of fell off the map, which was, unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't have the answer. If you don't have it, I sure as heck don't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like from that standpoint, and that's kind of leading me into where we're going with this. Like you mentioned, the offense. So finally, for the last 6 quarters of the season, pretty much being the worst 6 quarters of the season from an output standpoint. But they did have the same group of offensive linemen in there for all 4 of those games, Pat. These last 4 games, it was the same starting 5 every week, and then the last 6 quarters, they just could not get it going. What would you attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, 7-17 can only take you so far, and I think that's eventually what it comes down to. I mean, those guys for a 12-game season played their tails off, and super proud that they were on this Gamecock football team, and Lord knows where we'd be if we didn't have them. They didn't play to the level that they played at all year. So I mean, I guess we ran out of gas, but you got to have a supporting cast too. Like your top tier talent can only take you so far. I think I was looking at the stats. I mean, Xavier Leggett had 1,200 yards receiving, and the next closest player was Trey Knox at 312.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't think maybe every other receiver had a total of 1,200 yards if you combine all their numbers. I mean, I'm just shooting off the hip. Maybe they had, I guess Spencer had 3,000 yards. So they had 500 or 600 more yards than Xavier Leggett had. The rest of the guys that touched the football, the receiver room, running back room, tight end room. I mean, that's just tough. Like you don't have as much of a supporting cast and no other playmakers to really go out there and extend the game and make huge plays. Xavier Leggett, 7 touchdowns. I mean, probably 40 explosive plays, maybe more than that. Mario Anderson finished with 700 yards, averaged almost 5 yards a carry. But where was he the last 6 quarters? It's complementary football. So it's being able to run the ball and being able to take the top off too, which we just weren't able to do the last 6 quarters. And, I thought the first quarter and a half against Kentucky, the offense was clicking. And Spencer did a really good job of extending plays with his legs. And then him and Xavier there's the 2 names that keep jumping off my lips. But without those guys, this would have been a really, really long year. And thankfully they played at a high level and they're going to go on to the next level and play at a high level as well. I tweeted it out. I think it was the 3rd or 4th quarter. Xavier Leggett had 2 catches on the drive. And sure enough, he's the guy that makes the tackle on punt coverage. So you're sitting there and you're like, this guy's going to play on Sundays and he's going to play for a while on Sundays and he's going to make a team not only because he had 1,200 yards receiving, but because he's very unselfish and he's a heck of a team player, heck of a leader. I mean, when he speaks, guys listen. He reminds me of Julio from that stance. So it's
nice to be compared to Julio Jones.
I mean, honestly, he has that explosive trait. He has the size, speed. I remember talking to NFL scouts 2 years ago before Xavier Leggett was really on the map. I was like, some of the guys you're asking about are good players, but one of them looks a little different. Look at 17. That's how an NFL receiver that I know is supposed to look. And they're like, yeah, but what has he done? I'm like, not much yet, but just wait when he gets a shot. And sure enough, and then, I say that and that teased me into like Bam Martin Scott, like, holy smokes.
That's where we were going. Yep. Absolutely.
He averaged 7 or 8 tackles a game the last 3 games.
Was he the difference in your eyes? He's like the defense has been sensational the last 3 weeks. Was he the difference?
Well, I think the scheme, and I think kind of giving auxiliary looks instead of lining up in a base 4-3 and knowing exactly what you're going to get every time. I think what they did with the stemming and movement and the different fronts and moving people around. I think that caused confusion. Thankfully we were able to do that. Debo Williams played at an incredible level this year. But I honestly, Bam, from when he got here as a freshman, like watching one-on-one pass rush, like he just moved different. He was explosive. He had kind of a wiggle. He had kind of what a NFL linebacker has, those traits were his movement skills, his ball skills, his quick twitch, muscle fibers. Like he was a little different. I mean, he played the last 4 games and he had 40 tackles.
Just amazing.
40 tackles, 2 sacks, pass defended. I mean,
and he wasn't on the field before that.
What would have those numbers been if he would have been our Will or Mike? I mean, if you have Debo and him playing in there in the middle all year, and then you sprinkle in, obviously, like not taking anything away, Stone and Pup, and those guys had decent years too. But if your 2 staples are those 2, and then you give them blows with the other guys, I don't know. I was just excited to see him and him have a good year because he's a great kid, a great young man who works his tail off. And when he got his time to shine, he sure enough did.
They have him back next year. He's got another year too. So that's
and all those guys are back next year. Every one of them that you just mentioned returns next year. I said this earlier. 6 weeks ago, people were bagging on the defense, and my personal opinion on that, Pat, and you and I've talked about this, was I did not think it was a personnel issue. I thought there was enough talent over there to be better than what they were showing. I'm not saying they were going to go beat Georgia or Alabama or Michigan or Ohio State, but what they were showing.
You had 2 All-Americans at safety. You had a returning corner that had played a bunch of football. OD is in his 4th or 5th year. He's been around. He might not have played a bunch, but he's been around. I mean, Torian Gray's an incredible developer of players. Jalen Kilgore, freshman, comes in and plays at an extremely high level all year. Jordan Strawn has been banged up, but he's played at a high level at times. You lost Zach Pickens, but Boogie Huntley, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, you had guys inside. I mean, I agree with you. I don't other than the edge position, which you just didn't, you had upper talent, but you didn't have rotational guys. You didn't have enough bodies at that position to keep them fresh. But yeah, I mean, you had definitely saw the talent there. And I don't think we're losing too many guys on the defense, which would be an uptick. I'm going to pivot just because I'll forget if I don't ask this question, but is it pretty standard for Mario Anderson walked on Saturday? He's coming back, right? I would think. I don't think 700 yards.
I'd say that's the plan.
I just wonder why walk if you're probably coming back.
Well, my understanding of all this, and again, you could probably confirm it a little bit easier than I could, but they encourage those who may, for some reason, not play again, even if it's just a teeny tiny chance.
Okay.
They encourage them to go ahead and walk and get that round of applause from 75,000, 80,000 people.
That makes sense.
My understanding is he's probably coming back.
Tonka, I would if he were to ever reach out to me, I would encourage him that he probably needs to. From a growth development standpoint, I mean, we definitely saw some really good flashes of what could be. But I would say if he were to leave, he'd probably be a late round pick to an undrafted guy, and I think he could definitely help himself coming back and getting some more snaps.
He's going to be a father here soon as well. In about a month, as a matter of fact. The greatest gift in life, being dad, especially in the holidays, Pat, as we're all going broke now for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, we took advantage of Black Friday and today's Cyber Monday or whatever.
Yeah.
Emails I've received. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I know. I've got plenty of things. I'm not buying from you. I guess I will buy that. All right.
I can deal with that.
That's right. That's right. We'll go to the video here too. And Pat, obviously, clearly not a bunch to be fired up about from the game the other night, but early in the ball game, you did feel like when they were holding them to field goals. This is the play here that Leggett dropped. But when they were holding them to field goals, it was like, okay, keep holding them to field goals. We'll score at some point. Of course, that never happened. But this first play, this swing pass out here that was ruled a fumble, it was a fumble, and it was returned. Just a really unfortunate way to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, take it out of the ref's hands. I mean, and obviously, like you can see Xavier kind of peak that safety running 1,000,000 miles an hour. I mean, and AB actually does a decent job of actually adjusting to this. It's just like if Xavier Legette, you can see him, he peaks that safety running right at him. If AB were to just pick him off, I mean, Xavier's one-on-one with 36, and who knows what happens there. But this is one where you don't know if it's forward, backwards, in between your legs, whatever it is. But you just like this is something that is coached so hard in the NFL. I mean, you're running laps. If a ball's thrown relatively backwards, sideways, if there's any chance, this ball's got to be jumped on. And obviously, I know the guy's grabbing on Xavier Legette's leg, and
yeah, that wasn't called, was it? That's holding.
Yeah.
You can't just pull someone by the ankles. That is holding. They missed that call clearly,
but I mean, this is one that you have to, in some way, shape, or form, just get on the ball or at least get the guy down. And I don't know. It just stinks. He took his eye off the ball. This happened to me when I was in Atlanta. I would have had one more touchdown on the board if I wouldn't have taken my eye off the ball and looked upfield.
What's Amarian Brown doing on that play?
So AB's blocking MDM, most dangerous man here. And I mean, obviously it looks like man coverage, and he's going to stock block. I believe it's 36. And then the safety triggers. So he's got to get a piece of this guy. He just sees it a tad late because, like I said, if he were to just get a piece of him, I mean, and Xavier doesn't get distracted by that color, he might be off for the races one-on-one with that guy that's covering the nickel right now.
Mm-hmm.
This interception thrown here by Spencer, okay. Yeah, the next play here, the interception thrown by Rattler deep to Legette, Pat. So you got a couple things going on here. Number one, I felt like the ball was underthrown a little bit, but number two, both Legette and Amarian Brown are kind of in the same area there. And Amarian Brown, you could tell after the ball was picked off, you could tell Amarian Brown was like, "Hey, I was open." As you'll see him kind of let it fly here.
Yeah, I mean you guys ever play remember the game NFL Blitz when we were all kids? This is like that dub-on play where everybody runs verticals. You have kind of the quick seam, and then you have the cover two bender post in the middle of the field by 1, 2, and 3. I mean, honestly, it's like the exact picture of the bomb from NFL Blitz. But yeah, I mean, AB actually beats the backside corner. So Spencer has AB, and then the safety that's in the middle of the field is kind of in no man's land trying to cover both. And Spencer just kind of threw it up there and gave the defensive guy a chance to get on the ball. I mean, it was 2 turnovers. I think I heard it was in 14 seconds. It might have been the fastest 2 turnovers in the history of college sports.
Happened quick.
But
2 of the first 3 plays.
But I mean, you got to think like there's a lot of football after these 2 plays where we didn't make up for it. So yeah, it stinks, and it's not a good way to start. And I mean, but I will say Williams-Brice was still rocking even after Doomsday, the first 26 seconds of the football game. Williams-Brice and the fans in that stadium did not let up the entire game. We were loud and proud, but unfortunate. And here we go. I mean, this play is dead in the rights. I mean, thank goodness Luke Doty just has a little wiggle to him and makes a play. And obviously you can tell he's been in the backfield and scrambled for his life before at times because he is dead in the rights here. This is a version of Philly special.
We're holding there.
It is covered like a blanket. And Luke Doty just kind of makes a play and finds a soft spot in the zone and it's just a gritty touchdown right there.
This is an unbelievable interception by Nick Emilwari.
I mean, he showed up the last 2 games. Holy smokes. Best 2 games I think he's played all year.
What a play.
And in a big way. I actually texted him after the Kentucky game, and I was like, dude, I felt your presence in the stands. I felt the physicality you played with. And he texted me back, and he said, you know it, Coach. I love wearing garnet and black, and I'm going to play hard as heck every chance I get for our fans, which I thought was, I mean, for a 19 or 20-year-old kid to be able to process that and speak on it was pretty impressive. But this is it's a one-on-one. This is a 50-50 ball that every offensive coach says, hey, give your player a chance to make the play, 50-50 ball, have them go up and get it. but I would say, having Nicky Mignore, it was more of a 60-40 chance for the Gamecocks over the Tigers in this one-on-one play. I mean, a one-handed catch. Where's the offensive pass interference there?
No kidding.
And he still comes up with the ball. And a huge play, because that could have been a big, big turning point. Them going up 2 scores right there.
That's an NFL play there, Pat. I mean,
Yep.
It was just a special play from an All-American. I know it didn't start the way he wanted it to this year, but it sure did finish that way. Rattler here, this is an important series. 12 minutes to go. You're down 9. You got to score. They're moving the ball, and then they stall out in 3rd and 10, as you'll see here in just a minute. They just could not get it going.
This there's kind of a recurring theme on the good plays that we have here. We get it to somebody, number 17. Yeah. I mean, it just stinks when you don't have other weapons to go out there and take the burden off of 1 or 2 guys. I mean, you have to be able to spread the ball around. You have to keep defenses honest. You have to be able to exploit from multiple spots, and we weren't able to do that this year. I mean, like I said, Xavier Leggett, holy smokes. I mean, love the young man, love everything he's about. Played at an extremely high level. I mean, and he worked it too. He, his career in Garnet and Black wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. There was a lot of points where I'm sure he was extremely frustrated, not getting snaps. But I mean, you date back to 2 years ago when his number was called, making the big catch against Vandy to win the game for us. Last year, Texas A&M, so starting that game off with a bang. And then the bowl game last year, I think that's when he really, really, really blossomed, where he finally got his chance, and he went out there, and I think he caught a sigh of relief, and he's like, shoot, man, I can do this. Kind of like his welcome to the NFL moment, but welcome to the SEC moment. I had that, honestly, my very first preseason game in the NFL. I hit somebody was running down on kickoff, and I hit somebody, and I was like, okay, the hit feels the same. They fall down the same. All right, I can do this. But yeah, all in all, we didn't have the weapons offensively this year to be able to help support Xavier and Spencer, 2 elite talents, 2 of the best to probably wear Garnet and Black at those positions. But we have, I think has it been announced? I saw Juice post something about he's coming back. So, I mean, you getting Juice back, who would have been a big asset for us this year. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to play due to injury. And then obviously Lenore Sellers has shown some really, really good sparks and highlight plays for us so far in his short career. Very limited play, but I mean, it's looking pretty good for what the potential is with him and some other guys. So we just need to continue loading the roster up with some supporting staff. But we have the Great Wall of Carolina coming in with the prospects, the in-state offensive line. If we can add, another tight end, another receiver or 2, maybe a back, just to help with the supporting staff, it could line up to be a really fun 24.
Yeah, Josh Simon could be returning. I'll ask you real quick too. I know you got to run, but Nick Harbor, I feel like from day 1 until day whatever this past weekend, you saw some development there. Clearly, he's got a little bit of a ways to go, but your thoughts on him? He's got elite talent. There's no doubt. But learning that position, it's going to be a critical offseason to watch him continue to grow up.
Well, he's going to be taught by Justin Stepp, who's an incredible human being, who's going to pour into him, not just on the football field, but off the football field as well. So I'm really excited to see his development. I mean, you got to think he was number 30 or 40 prospect in the country. I mean, going into DMV and being probably the number 1 player in that area to come down here. So there's a lot of hype, and you got to grow up really quick in this day and age of college football. And he came in, and there's a lot of hype behind him. And I would say he probably didn't live up to it from a statistical standpoint this year, probably what fans and staff thought he was going to do. But it just leads into, like I said, a really good offseason. So winter workouts. Nick Harbor, have your best. This is your first winter workout segment, but have this be your best winter workouts and lead into your best spring ball and lead into incredible summer workouts. Have a kick butt fall camp. and then into year 2. So big development stage, I think, for the entire program. And it's, that starts off with the strength staff and I think they're probably going to get some workouts since not getting a bowl game. So you get a little kickstart and you get some true winter workouts during exams, and that leads into January. I've been there. My freshman year, we didn't make a bowl game. Those were extra workouts, extra time with Mark Smith and Brian Gordemaker and the strength staff that used to absolutely crush us back then. So I know Luke Day and co are going to be doing the same to our guys now.
Pat, we cannot thank you enough. I know you had a wonderful weekend with your family for Thanksgiving, and certainly didn't end it in the way we wanted it all to. There's no doubt about that. But we've concluded football season. You've been excellent, and we really cannot thank you enough. We'll probably try to sneak you back in here in the next week or two as things start to, you got this portal stuff. You got a lot of stuff coming up here. It's going to be a critical next few weeks for Gamecock football. So we would love to have you back in for one last round of analysis before we all take a break for Christmas. But really, you've been a friend for a long time, which I'm most honored to say. But at the end of the day, man, you make us a lot better around here, and we really can't thank you enough for what you do.
Well, I'm not a message board guy, and I kind of live to DQ standard of ignore the noise. So of all the rumblings, I'll get my news from you guys on here. So you guys fill me in on what's going on with the portal and recruiting and yada yada yada. I'm worried about Weston has flag football practice here on Wednesday, so I'm trying to drop a few new ball plays for the 6 and 7 year olds. I have to remind myself the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid.
It's about championship time, isn't it? Shouldn't you guys? I mean, that's late for flag.
We are. This is. I think it's a 7-game season. We're in week 5. We haven't had too much competition yet. I mean, honestly, it is hard for me to allocate touches. I think one of the boys has only had 3 touches this year, and he scored 2 touchdowns. I should tell my wife to bring a pad and paper just to tally who's touched the ball, who scored, who hasn't scored, because I don't want any of the parents getting mad at me because Timmy didn't score. Well, Timmy scored twice last game. Give Timmy a break.
You're loaded, man. That's a loaded team. So, well, congratulations, Pat. Certainly,
I'm going to hold
what
up
JD says.
My YMCA flag football trophy.
You put that back. Yeah, I want to see that back on the shelf when we get you back home, man. That'll be great. But
that's right.
JB, we really appreciate
the whole thing.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on, man. It's always great to hear from you.
No, I've really enjoyed it, chopping it up with you guys, and I love Carolina football. I love Garnet and Black. I love what Coach Beamer's doing. And honestly, I really enjoyed my 2 years working in there and develop relationships with the players and the coaches. It is really hard to win in the SEC. It's really hard to win in the NFL. There's going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But at the end of the day, it's just put your head down to work, put your best foot forward. And I think that's what this staff is going to do. That's what the players are going to do. I think if they listen to DQ's 3 rules, this would be a really productive offseason. I think they'll be better come 2024.
Boy, I hope it's a great offseason for the Gamecocks, and the next couple of weeks we'll start to find out what it's going to look like as the portal opens and things like that. Boy, it's a different world from when you played, Pat. But
as much of the cool stuff and making money and transferring and jumping ship, as many of the opportunities that are out there, man, I would not give up my experience and signing on the dotted line, my letter of intent to play here in South Carolina and staying here all 4 years and never even blinking an eye leaving this place, because it meant so much to me and always will. The relationships and the people I met here have changed my life for the better. So with the new era of college football, man, it can definitely make you think twice and make some really hard decisions just emotionally. And I don't envy having to go through that now at 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm sure it's a big burden on these guys.
Boy, I think that's the understatement of the day. There's no question. Thank you, man. Really do appreciate it. I'll hit you up a little bit later on, and all the best to you and your family. We'll get you back on here in the next couple of weeks and look at some of the movement that you just you just kind of described there. There will be movement, and we'll fuss and discuss when it gets here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me all year.
Yes, sir. There you go, Pat DiMarco, the great Gamecock, Pat DiMarco. Literally cannot thank him enough for what he does here on our program each and every week. All right,
news.
Yep.
I got some news I want to drop so we can discuss it. Frank Reich fired for the Panthers.
Yeah,
fired out
right before we hit the show.
Goodbye, Frank.
He was fired this morning, and
Rick Stockstill just got fired at Middle Tennessee, which surprises me a lot that they would fire that guy after they basically would not have had a program had it not been for him. To me, that kind of sucks, but sometimes you get fired. Gary Patterson got fired at TCU, and the next year they played for a national title. So who am I to fuss
Rick
about
has been
that?
up there for a while.
Yeah, he left. He was on Spurrier's first staff and left to take that job in 2006. So
Yep. Oh, Ricky Stocks. All right. All right, 1241. We need to step aside. Part of the Chief Sports Network. ITG will be right back.
Hey folks, it's JB, and as we all know, it's football season. My favorite place to shop for myself and the family is Gamecock Traditions in Lexington. They have the widest selection of Gamecocks attire, plus all the cool accessories for tailgating, cooking, kids, shoes, hats, and so much more. Most importantly for me, you can order online at GamecockTraditions.com, and it's shipped timely to your door. I've been shopping here for years, and I hope you will too. Order online right now on the Chief Sports app. Go Gamecocks.
Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style in seconds. They're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
South Carolinians, this message is for you, as well as for people in Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. If you think you may need work done to your roof or a new roof altogether, there's one simple name to remember: Elite Roofing and Restoration. South Carolina native Jeremy Johnson has been helping people in the South make sure they have the very best people checking on and building new roofs for over 25 years. Fully licensed, bonded, and insured, they provide the best service possible. Call or email today, 678-781-1998. That's 678-781-1998, or you can go to EliteRoofingGA.com. Schedule a no-hassle, free inspection today. Wind damage, hail damage, or just wear and tear. Don't settle for second best. Let Jeremy Johnson and Elite Roofing and Restoration take care of it all for you today.
Hey Gamecock fans, Mike Borkins here. During my time in Columbia, one of my favorite places to eat was Salsaritas. When I go back now for work or any other reason, it's still Salsaritas. Yeah, I'm like you. I love tacos. I love Tex-Mex. Where are you going to go to get them? Well, you've got two convenient Salsaritas locations, one in Lexington in the Target Center and one in West Columbia as well. Now, if you like tailgating, and who doesn't? Whether it's for a football game or anything else, they've got the catering hotline. Get yourself some Fiesta packs to take tailgating. Get yourself the Three Amigos bundles for tailgating. They make catering easy with a fresh, hot setup. And again, you just call the phone number 803-543-6297 to set it up. You can also look them up online, or you can even download the app. Salsaritas is just a cut above the rest. That's why they're serving Williams-Brice Stadium and the South Stands, also serving in the Colonial Life Arena. Again, that catering hotline number, make it easy for you and the folks out there. You don't need to settle for sandwiches every time. 803-543-6297. 803-543-6297.
Shop Charleston Fitness Equipment this holiday season. Major discounts on treadmills, rowers, ellipticos, and more. Proud partners of Carolina Rise, Inside the Gamecocks, and the Chiefs Sports Network. CharlestonFitnessEquipment.com, 843-388-0999. Charleston Fitness Equipment this holiday season.
All right, 12:45. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co., barndominiumco.com. Well, I hate to be the guy to do this. I don't want to stir up anything here, but I'm just speaking reality. I would imagine if Middle Tennessee State is moving on from Rick Stockstill, Pete Limbo's name is probably going to come up with that job. Pete used to be the assistant head coach at Memphis, and he knows that state pretty well. And I can't say that Pete Limbo doesn't probably want to be a head coach again. So we'll see. He hadn't been head coach since he was the head coach at Ball State for 5 seasons, and prior to that at Elon. But I would say, JC, there might be a pretty decent chance we could see his name floated around somewhere from a credible source on that.
Yeah, that kind of job that's the kind of one he's thrived at, and it's not a bad job. And Stockstill's kind of made it good. They do a good job of recruiting Nashville, and then you're close enough to places like Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, the Midwest, where you can that tier of guys that you can realistically recruit. Now, the problem with any job like that is going to be the portal, because you're going to lose guys to higher, guys that you go evaluate, you're going to lose them to a higher level. But that's a problem at every Group of 5 job. So I'm not, it's tough, but he is the type of coach that I think would fit at a spot like that. When you win at Ball State, you're a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
David Letterman aside, that's not even a good MAC job. There's some jobs in the MAC that when you win there, you're kind of like, wow, that guy can coach. It's one thing winning at Toledo. It's another thing winning at Ball State or Kent State up there. So, yeah, and if he does, great. I mean, wish him the best. He's had a good run. I know this year the special teams weren't great, but I think that's more of a function of depth. And like he said, you're moving guys that were outstanding on special teams last year. You can't play them as much because they're starters now, and the people behind them aren't as good, and that's what happens. And Kai Kroger, whatever, he hit a little slump, but that's more like golfing or shooting free throws to me than any sort of coaching. So, but hats off to him. He's a good man, and hopefully, if he wants that job, I hope he gets it.
Well, we'll certainly see. I'm sure that'll make its way to some message board that I said it. I'm just saying I would imagine he would be in consideration for it. So we'll see how it all works out. But yeah, look, I think it's inevitable that there's going to be something that changes. Generally when you don't have a successful season, there are always changes, JC. And with And there's a lot of ways to do that. I think that if Coach Beamer has shown anything, whether you, us, whomever, as media fans, whatever it may be, like it or not, he's not a quick trigger guy. I think that Shane, whether this is the right way or the wrong way to do it, sees the human before the coach. There's a lot of guys that don't care, and I understand that too. Hey, it's a job, and you got to understand when you sign up, you sign up sometimes to get fired. And you make a bunch of money, and you got to understand that sometimes you're just going to get fired when you're not doing a very good job. You're going to get canned. And guys like Coach Spurrier in the past, they've had no problems walking in and saying you're just not getting it done, so you're out of here. We wish you the best, but we're gonna have to do something different. Shane doesn't seem like the guy to do that. He seems more of, and again, you would know a lot more about it than we would, but we all hear and kind of know different things. He's always generally trying to look out for the best interest of the person. And so I guess what am I getting at here? I'm getting at the fact that I don't know what changes could be coming, but he probably is going to have his own way about doing that. And, he will, like, if there's a guy who is maybe not the right fit and he just needs to find a way to move on from him, that guy might be taking another job, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of ways that you can do all this. I know that, we all have our opinions as to how you should or shouldn't do some of it. And I get that. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be the guy who would walk in and say, we really appreciate you, but it just isn't working out. So I wish you and your family the best. But I don't think that that's how he's going to handle some of this. So if there are changes, I would say that those will be coming on his time, his way, and we'll all just be able to fuss and discuss those once they get here.
Yeah, And look, like I said, that's not me, and that's really probably not how I'd work. But other coaches have done it multiple ways. I mean, it's Coach Spurrier. He had one year, 2008, and I think he was about done with that team by the time they finished coaching it. Remember, everybody went pro. David Reeves goes with Kiffin. Cooper gets told to look for another job. It was Ellis's first year as D coordinator, so he was safe. Beamer gets moved to recruiting coordinator. And the funny thing was that season was also transition at Tennessee, transition at Clemson. I think both North Carolina schools opened up. And that 2009 recruiting class, even with 6 coaching changes, because they brought in G.A. Mangus, Jay Graham, Lorenzo Ward, Craig Fitzgerald from Harvard was the new strength coach. They ended up putting together his best staff. But then you think about other years where, hey, why don't you go look around? and that's normally how Spurrier would handle it. He did not like firing people, as we all saw at the end of his tenure at all. When he held serve and said, I'm just going to move Grady Brown off the field and bring in Johnny Hoke and let's see how it works. Oh, great idea, Coach. Let's let Lorenzo Ward and Deke Adams co-coach the D-line. I mean, it took Lance Thompson 3 years to get that situation right, or 2. 17, that's when guys like Dante Sawyer and Ulrich Jones and Taylor Stallworth, those guys really started playing ball, if you notice, is because they had a year where they just weren't coached at all, So, that was it. And also, Coach Holtz, he didn't really make wholesale changes until that last year. You had guys leave for other jobs, like Charlie Strong left and he promoted Chris Kosh, but he had a lot of, continuity. And then after 63-17, he had to make some changes. So, I don't know. Different people handle it different ways. I wish, if I were him, I think sometimes it's good to just go ahead and do the Jeremy Foley thing. When he fired Zook at Florida, he's like, what must be done eventually must be done immediately. But at the same time, it is a profession and there are personal relationships there. And if a guy can land on his feet, it actually makes your program, you don't look like you don't make the guy that's leaving look bad, and you don't look bad yourself. You save face a little bit. So I certainly understand that. The problem is you're running up against recruiting right now with the new calendar. And so that's a consideration as well when you're talking about a bunch of changes. So maybe that's a school of thought that you don't want. You want to wait till after that. And I don't know about that. I lean more toward after a year like this that you just go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid and get out in front and kind of just go see who you can get. But I'm sure there's a plan one way or the other. Like I said, I'm not sitting here advocating for no change. I am pro change. I think there are some changes that need to be made to maximize this program moving forward.
Yeah, it also will be interested to see what type of candidates and what type of interest you would get this go around now that he has been a head coach, not just the head coach at South Carolina, but been a head coach for 3 seasons. When you're a first time head coach, and I know we've talked about a lot of this, guys. There are talented guys out there who probably have some interest, but are a little bit apprehensive to take that type of job. Going to work for somebody that maybe just hadn't done it before is just not that intriguing when you've been doing it a long time. And so once you get a guy who's kind of got some things under his belt and he's, some time under his belt, like Shane does, it will draw some additional interest from some quality guys. And so I'll be anxious to see what that looks like too. Again, if there are changes made coming down the road. So certainly something to keep an eye on. And then, of course, the timeline is just all boogered up now. And, South Carolina right now, they need to continue to hold on to the talent that they've got committed. I know we're out of time, so we'll continue this conversation coming up here in hour 3. But, what you certainly don't want to do is make a change and then lose a bunch of kids who are going to come in and help you win games. They're not in a position to be able to just drop talent. So that's something that will need to be considered as well. But
Clint, I love that idea, moving somebody to coach Lucas to linebackers and giving Travian the D line. I think they need a linebackers coach. I really do. And I like Travian having the whole D line myself. So I'd be in favor
I
of
do
that.
too.
I have no idea if that's going to happen, but I'm in favor. I'm in favor. Great idea. I call you guys out when you don't have good ideas, so I should probably pat you on the head when you do.
No, I think that there's something to that.
I like that.
And I would venture a guess that's probably been discussed.
I like this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it. Let's do it. I just quoted Ghostbusters. Gotta have some comic relief here. Sonder Lucas moves the linebackers where he played.
Yeah.
Of course, he, like Clayton White, has never coached linebackers. He coached outside linebackers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Sterling can do it.
Special teams.
I think Sterling could be a good linebackers coach.
I think Sterling would be fine. All right. Well, we gotta take a bathroom break here. It's been a long day. I gotta get some more coffee for my throat. Don't go anywhere. We got an hour to go. And we look forward to coming right back. We'll also hit on the rest of college football. We haven't had a chance to get into that yet. What a weekend. Wow. What a scenario unfolding with the playoff, too. Crazy. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks. We'll be right back.
Chicken cock originated in Kentucky, like so many other bourbons. And so the resurrection of it, Paris, Kentucky, that's the county seat of Bourbon County. So much of this whiskey was being made in that Bourbon County, put on ships and barges and shipped down Ohio, down to Mississippi, and got to New Orleans, where it got distributed all over the world. And people kept saying, well, hey, I want some more of that whiskey from Bourbon County. And so that's how bourbon whiskey got its name. And chicken cock originated actually in Paris, Kentucky, which is today Bourbon County.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks! Billy G's Carolina Barbecue always presents the national anthem at noon. Didn't get it in earlier today. We were out of time before we got to Pat, but certainly wanted to make sure we get it in because that's what we do. So it was on.
It's noon for JC. It's noon. It's noon Central.
Oh, that's true. That's right. We're just honoring those in the Central Time Zone today with our national anthem at noon. You're on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Welcome back. 2 hours in the books. One to go. What's up?
Yeah, Bears play tonight. By the way, I'll text you guys about that after we get off.
Okay.
Anyway, but no, it's noon in the Midwest and it's snowing. It's first snow of the year happened Saturday night. It sucks. It was cold today. I had to scrape the ice off the car before I went, and I'm batting down the hatches for another winter. I gotta get my blubber right, like a bear, before he hibernates. Shovel in a couple of beef sandwiches and get ready to stay warm. So, Clint, I think there's about 3 I would make if you want to know the truth. 2 definitely, but I'm not going to get into any speculation on that, like as far as positions and go, because honestly, there are really no positions this year outside of quarterback that I could go, oh yeah, they had a great year. I definitely, and that's as far as I'll go with that right now.
I think that they all had their issues. I think that again, it just goes back to consistency for me. I mean, and there's a lot that you can have that conversation with that word. The up front, the offensive line, very inconsistent. Why? Injuries, youth. Running back group, inconsistent. Why? Lack of depth and probably talent and injuries. At the wide receiver position, outside of Xavier Legette, I would say at times, excuse me, I'm sorry, inconsistent. Why? I don't know. I know this: Justin Stepp is elite. So if there's anybody who's going to fix that room, it's him. Regardless of what anybody on the outside wants to say, that is just not a very good look for somebody to go bagging on Justin Stepp. G.A. Mangus and Pat DiMarco sat here and praised him on our program for the last couple of weeks. So, trust me, he's as good as they get. The tight end room, I would say it was inconsistent. Why? I don't know the answer to that either, JC. But Phil, I would also say this: I think nothing personal in this statement. I think that the personnel was incorrectly used. And I'm not the ultimate football mind, but I am really still blown away that Josh Simon didn't play more throughout the year.
And that's interesting you bring that up, JP, in that if you were to isolate a position group that didn't really see the youth come on towards the end of the season, tight end is definitely one of those where you can make the argument that you needed that help. Even if all you've got the big body out there blocking people.
Yeah, they had played Joe. What's his name? John Darius Morgan at tight end a little bit.
Yeah,
yeah. But no, I think that's fair. Am I saying that Jody Wright is not doing a good job? I don't know. He's recruiting well. He hadn't been here that long. I know a lot of the coaches on staff liked him when he came, and I think he's pretty well liked. But I mean, I think that's fair, though. As far as the player usage goes, the OC leaves, unless it's a specific thing where he needs a guy, the position coaches handle that. So, I like Josh Simon, and I like Trey Knox, too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think you could probably have found a way to incorporate both. But Josh Simon's just a little bit more physical, just a little bit more nasty. It's a little bit more of a baller, I thought, this year than Trey.
Yeah, I think that. I think that.
Though, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the reasons why, but I mean, let's go back to August, and we can go back prior to that. I mean, our conversations here on this program. We pretty much all had it on pretty good accord that Josh Simon was a dude, and he was going to play. And so, I was a little if you want to talk about specific things that we saw this year that you're disappointed in, and I don't know why. Again, I don't know the reasons why, and I'm not sitting here trying to bag on anybody. It's nothing personal. It's just like looking back over the last 12 games. Based on what I think I know, and maybe I just don't know the whole story, what would you have liked to see a little bit differently here or there? That is right there at the top. Josh Simon was a guy I thought that probably should have played some more on the offensive side of the football. And I'll be honest with you, again, hindsight 2020, but I mean, in the Furman game, Mario Anderson took one carry, and we cut the mics on Monday, and I said, that's the best running back on the team. And then we didn't see him for 3 weeks, so there are certain things, again, consistency. Why were all these positions inconsistent? I think there's a little bit of a different reasoning for all of it. And I think somebody earlier in the chat box said everything should be under evaluation. It is. And I'm glad. And Shane has publicly said that, hey, at the end of the year, you evaluate everything. And I know that's what they're doing today. And hopefully they can fix it now, like ASAP now.
Yeah. I mean, look, Josh Simon has another year. He's also eligible to go back into the portal and transfer if he wants, because he's now a graduate transfer. So we'll see what his future holds. I think if he came back next year, he'd have a really good season. And I think Michael Smith probably will play as well as a true freshman at that spot. I don't know what's up with Elksness. And I think maybe if you criticize the tight ends and develop, quote unquote, development of that position, maybe that's what you're looking at. Why Reed McKeska, Connor Cox, Nick Elksness did not play more this year where they weren't ready.
Yeah,
they're freshmen. They're freshmen. So
I don't get beat up over the young guys. That's not that's not what I'm getting at here. I thought it was a personnel issue. Trey is a guy who, first of all, we got to know him. This kid probably could end up being the governor or the president or something. Yeah. He's a special human. But they're athletically, they're just, and I know he got a little banged up too, but there's just only so much he can do. That's not a knock on him. That's not what I'm saying. But like Josh Simon, when he's got the ball in his hand, he moves a little bit differently. I just felt like personnel usage there might have been a little bit off, but I've never been hired to coach tight ends at the collegiate level either. And nobody ever asked me my opinion, and they don't give a damn what it is. That's just looking back on it, what I thought, maybe there could have been something a little bit more.
Simon and Anderson, receiver, there's not really anybody. I mean, look, and I've mentioned Eddie Lewis, and I'm sure, like, if I did not know what I knew about kind of his off the field situation, I would be like, where the hell is Eddie Lewis? Because he looked good. He did. But you have to take care of your business and do the right thing to play South Carolina. More power to him. Kelton Henderson was a freshman, highly touted, that came in here and got way behind because of injury. I mentioned Elijah Caldwell earlier, really good out of pads, not so good with pads. That happens. It's a different ball game with pads, right? As far as Kyler Horton goes, he's probably still. I mean, we knew it was going to take 2 years for that guy. So if we want to talk about, development at receiver, running back was I wrote today, guys. That has to change. Okay, if there's one mandate I'm having, if I'm Shane Beamer, the situation at running back here has to change. I don't care who does it, what happens. There's no excuse for having the room you had this year. And thank God for Mario Anderson. Thank God when he got in the portal, Taylor Edwards said, hey, this guy's pretty good. We'd probably take him. But if it weren't for him, you're done. You're completely done. I know a lot of people like Braswell because of speed. I'm not sold on that guy right now. Now, he could get better like a lot of players do. I'm not giving up on him. But I'm not sold DJ Braswell can be if Mario leaves, which I don't know, I don't think he will, but if he does, then I'm not sold to that guy. I mean, I think they portal, you got to get Fuller in, you got to get another high school guy if you don't get Hill. I mean, you've got to flip that room, man.
Well, you've got to get a portal running back this year, regardless of whether you sign Daniel Hill or not. You got to sign him.
And look, if let's say Mario does leave, which could happen, I don't think it's likely, but it could. That's yet another guy that's gotten the hell out of Dodge at running back as soon as he possibly could. And that's happened the entire Shane Beamer era. Now, am I blaming anybody specifically? No. I mean, you guys tell me. Because if you can't bring guys in and all your guys are leaving, some prematurely, and I understand the nature of that position is if you can go get paid, because all those guys in the NFL have a shelf life. And we see it every single year. Some undrafted free agent knocks a multi-million-dollar contract off the roster because their legs are fresh and the other ones aren't. But, man, I mean, there's no more excuses about running back. There's no more, let's move this guy, or there's no more, none of that. It is, let's go get this room right. And that, if I'm Shane Beamer, you have to have that. Because the line is going to get better. The line won't have these injuries next year. But you got to have somebody.
An easy sell. I mean, hey, look, we don't have a bell cow here. We just signed 2 of the top 3 tackles in the country. We're returning everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the narrative that, well, do we really want this group? If some of these guys, like, why would we want them back? They were terrible. No, you do want them back. It's always funny when you hear that, right? I had someone say that to me this weekend, a friend of mine. He was like, do we really want these guys to return? They've been terrible. I'm like, but you're going to be the first one to run to the message boards and one of them transfers and wondering why they're leaving. No, you always want guys to return, period. Like, you might have to have a guy that you need to run off, but, like, you want – look, if you return Vershawn Lee and Nick Gargiulo and Ja'Kai Moore and those freshmen, and they don't start next year, it sure is nice knowing you got a backup that started 12 games, 20 games, 30 games, whatever it is in their career. So like that I am confident, I'm with you, that that position group has a bright future, as bad as it was this year. So if that's the case, how on earth, if you're not returning some big stud at running back, how can you not sign one? Like, that should be, if you're a running back, why would you not want to play at South Carolina? And if you do, and you don't sign with them, then where's the problem? And again, that goes back to things that probably need to be addressed by Coach Beamer.
Exactly. And, it's one of those things. So I mean, look, man, Jalen Nichols, who was hurt all year, who actually is a shame. That's what we can trace all this back to the spring game. And when all this started, right? This is a spring game. He goes down, and so you go. So you bring him back. You bring back Vershawn Lee and Nick Gargiulo. That's three really. Those guys weren't like individually the problems this year. Trevon Ball and Big Tree will be a year older. Marquis Anderson, who is probably going to start too, will be back. And then you bring in the two younger guys at tackle who are advanced, and you don't have to, let's say, you don't have to worry about starting them both. You can maybe start one, maybe Case and Henry does get better and more healthy. His deal is, something that he just needs to rest. You can't, he keeps rushing it back, and that was probably a bad idea on his part. So, there's a lot that you can be done. And Sonder mentions Big Tree going to guard. Well, that could happen. If you get Nichols back and Henry back,
absolutely could.
You can move him. Boy, that dude inside would be amazing.
I think this line would have been better this year with another freshman in there, Marquis Anderson. So
they would have, and make no mistake about it, I've been told Marquis would have played. Titan mentions we could have used Rashad Amos. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, everybody's getting the hell out of Dodge from that room. And there's not that much attrition everywhere else, man. I know Birch and Gilbert left for NIL dollars and fame. Well, you know what? They're both going to probably be in the playoff. So, that's kind of hard to
Amos
say.
could be said as the most concerning situation, because here he is. He's not a hot commodity.
Excuse me.
Like the other ones. I mean, no name, no, it's like, that's the one that kind of was red flag for me when all was said and done. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd, we all know why he left, at least primary reason. But Amos, you had every opportunity with Lloyd being.
And when Traeger says he fumbled every time he's in. Well, he only got one chance every 5 games. When he played in the spring game, he looked really good. A lot of backs did that night, but I think Amos was fine.
How many times did Kerryon Joyner fumble? And I'm not going after DK. I'm just saying, if that's your metric,
you can't sit there.
Nobody holds to it.
Fumbling's a lot like golf and free throw shooting and punting and all that. Sometimes it's mental, but I mean, I watched a high school football game. I crap you not, where Marcus Lattimore fumbled 4 times, but rushed for 230 yards. Burns lost to St. Thomas Aquinas that night, and Gio Bernard and the kid that played at Wisconsin that was really good, that played for the Patriots, was on that team. Leonard Hankerson was on that. I mean, that was a loaded St. Thomas team. But I watched Marcus fumble 4 times in high school, which never happened. So that's not really one of those things. Deshaun Fenwick at Oregon State probably could have helped too. He was coming into his own. He had a good year out there. But that's just what I'm saying, man. That's a red flag to me.
Well,
you're losing guys every year, and then you're not replacing them. You know what I'm saying?
And I think a lot of that too. Also, I'm not proclaiming like I'm right on this. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just trying to. Our job's to talk about it, and I'm just trying to figure it out here. And it's nothing personal, but like that, you're losing guys. Okay, so I know the inside story of the Marshawn Lloyd situation. He basically just never showed back up and left his roommate hanging. All right. And okay.
You can't thank Caleb Williams' dad for that too.
Exactly. So like, okay, that's a little bit different. But like Rashad Amos last year had 2 carries. 2. He's a running back. Jaheim Bell had 73. He's a tight end, right? So like you fast forward here to 2023, and again, how long did it take Mario to get on the field when it felt like if you had a set of eyeballs and a brain, a properly functioning brain, you knew this guy should be running the football. It felt like they did to carry on, and to me, this is what it felt like to me, a real disservice in the offseason by putting 20 extra pounds on him or whatever it was. Apparently that wasn't necessary because he couldn't move like he used to be able to move. Mm-hmm. So, we didn't see Juju for how long this year, and all of a sudden he's just back in there. So like I'm just, you talk about the transfers, JC, and then when you have that conversation, you lump into it personnel usage. And it's easy to ask the question, what are we doing here? Again, I don't know the answer. I don't. And I'm not sitting here trying to act like I do know the answer. Like I'm throwing something out there, hinting at something. I don't know the answer. But I understand why the question is being asked. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's fair to, like I said, I wrote today, fix it. I don't care how. I don't care who. I don't care what. I don't care about the process. Just fix it. Because, look, it's like baffling to the point of like the Muschamp era at safety. Like, why are you having problems getting safety? Why are you having problems getting running backs here? They've always had, it doesn't matter if they're recruiting 4 stars, 5 stars, 2 stars, or 3 stars. You always have competent backs. Hell, Lou Holtz one time had 5 and played them all in one game against Vandy and beat the crap out of Vandy. But look,
Well, I mean, 2 years ago we had Kevin Harris, Quandre White, Juju McDowell, and Marshawn Lloyd were all on the same team.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a knock because they, unlike some positions that Muschamp did not leave in good shape, like quarterback, he left a lot of good players at running back. They left a lot of good players on offensive line, or players. They left a really good bunch of defensive ends. And you kind of look at it and you're like, well, here's where the deficiencies are starting now. And it's kind of, I understand the end to a certain extent, man. There hasn't been the talent in the state. And then, the Rames thing was disappointing. And, they disappointment, Dawkins was not as good as they thought he'd be out of the portal. I get all that, but running back, there's no excuse. I mean, you can find, and I don't think they recruited enough guys there either. You can go find 5 guys that are comparable around the South and say, this is 1 through 5, and you strike out on one, you keep the other one warm, and you go get them. I mean, look at Ole Miss as one of the best running backs in the country, 3-star kid out of Bama. You can go find those guys. You just have to. The best coaches we've had here, or Carolina's had here, at finding guys were probably Robert Gillespie, Jay Graham, Bobby Bentley, and then Des Kitchings for a year. And Des is one of the best ever to do it. So, you gotta fix this somehow because there's a track record of being able to be competent at least at running back around here, look, poor Mario got beat up. I don't think Mario has been 100%. I mean, you could tell me whatever you want. I don't think the kid's been 100% the last 2 weeks at all. Just a step slow, and that happens when you're playing hurt. You're not playing injured, you're playing hurt. Okay, and so with no depth behind him, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Trayvon. I'll just mention Trayvon Dunbar. I don't know. They don't want him. They saw it like they don't want him. Maybe they circle back. I have no idea. I'll say this about that and move on. In-state kids that are talented, that are very, very good, that you pass on, you better hope they don't go someplace else and shine. Because when I start talking about bad recruiting, that's what I get. That's what I can't do. Some people bitch because the ranking's 21st instead of 15th. I know enough to know there's not that much difference. You just got to get close with the rankings, and the rankings are what they are. It's when you start letting good players at a position of need. Just like with receiver at the old staff, Just like what happened with the old staff at receiver. You start letting guys that are good leave the state that can play, that can come back to bite you. That's bad recruiting. So, I mean, and we won't know for wherever Dunbar ends up. We won't know for a couple of years. But that's just one of those things. It's a gamble. It's a gamble. But we'll see how it goes. I would probably squeeze him in the class. But I'd also taken the kid from Dutch Fork last year that went to Clemson. So that's just me. I just think that sometimes your in-state guys, if you have a position like that that's thin, you put a guy out there, he'll probably surprise you 9 times out of 10. But that's just me. I'm not saying they're wrong. They may not be. But those are the types of recruiting decisions that can come back to bite you at South Carolina, because there's not enough players to fill out a whole roster. So you better take the ones you can get. And history shows us those usually end up being your better players.
We certainly will. We'll find out. I know the kid had an unbelievable senior year, Trayvon Dunbar. It almost seems like, by the way, he's just waiting to get an offer from South Carolina. But well, I don't know if he will or won't. We'll find out down the road somewhere.
And Jay Diz, they didn't make Lloyd split carries with Jaheim Bell. Jaheim Bell didn't start playing running back until Lloyd took himself out of games. I don't remember Lloyd. Lloyd split. I guess they put McDowell in after Lloyd at the beginning of the year when he was quote unquote healthy. So that's not true.
Brent asked if Jay Graham's at ETSU as an assistant. Go pay the. Jay is not. Jay is not going to be getting back into college coaching, but nope. You might see him again somewhere. So we'll see.
We all love Jay Graham here on this show, and trust me. But yeah, college coaching is just not in the cards for my man coaching there. Yeah. So I mean, Jonathan, I don't know that all other Power 5 coaches have offered Dunbar. Who else in the SEC has offered him? Kentucky?
Yeah, well, and right, that was my question about him. Whenever we first started talking about this, I don't even know how long ago.
I mean, I agree, it's a debate. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, but let's just be accurate with our criticisms here.
Well, it's
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Lloyd didn't split time with Bell as much as Marcus Satterfield screwed everything up, and I don't know that Dunbar has a bunch of SEC offers or options right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, and I'm with you, Jonathan. I don't care who else offers him. I'm just saying that.
Yeah,
the statement with the Power 5 offers. Oh, so Jonathan was saying trust Beamer because it's not no SEC offers. Oh, we'll see. I
mean, you don't ever know what some of these offers mean or when they came and are they still committable or not. I mean, he's showing 2, Ole Miss and Arkansas. But again, I don't know the backstory and all that. So I know that all the schools in the immediate area, Clemson, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida State, none have offered the young man, and I don't know why. And just that's what it says.
Yeah. And look, let's not start crapping all over next season yet. I'll tell you this: who knows what'll happen in the portal? But with the transfer portal these days, you can turn it around quick. I don't think in a 16-team SEC you're gonna see the Gamecocks ranked very highly because people love their favorites in the preseason polls. I don't expect the Gamecocks to be, but there's no reason why they can't turn it around in 7-5, 8-4 next year. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. There's a long way to go before next season's roster takes place and who's coaching what and all that good stuff. So don't go crapping all over next season yet. So I think it'll be. I think you may be surprised.
We need to step aside. It is 1:28. We are powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. It's, as we all well know, the holiday season. And if you're looking for something that you don't have and you don't have an electric bike, man, they're sweet. They really are. They are really, really sweet. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. It might not be for you. It might be for your kids. Might be for your spouse. Something you want to go a different direction. Something to get you active, but something to get you out. And then also you just don't have to pedal all the time. That's the way I like it. Electric Bikes of Charleston. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. If you don't live in the Low Country, it's okay. It's okay. I promise you. They'll work with you and they'll figure out how to connect and how to make sure that you are well taken care of no matter where you're from. So check them out online at electricbikescharleston.com. Call Michelle. She'll set up a time. You get in there and talk about it. and hopefully you make a purchase. I promise you won't regret it. electricbikescharleston.com. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks!
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Coach Joe here. And when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight out the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer. Go Tiger.
For chicken cock, we get a medium to medium plus toast, the char level. We use a number 3 level char. If you char it too deep, you start burning away some of those flavor components that you just created. If you just char a barrel and you don't toast it, you're going to create some of those flavors just on a thin layer just inside the char, but not the actual depth and full extent of flavors that you're going to get if you toast it properly. All those elements, that's exactly what they do. They boil down to great flavor.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. Go Gamecocks.
This break is presented by Billy G's Carolina Barbecue, the state newspaper's 2023 winner for Best Catering, Best Barbecue, and Best Food Truck. Visit BillyG'sCarolinaBarbecue.com for all of your catering needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
The cold air is on the way here in South Carolina. Check your forecast. The next couple of days are going to be chilly, and
How chilly is chilly?
How
chilly is chilly?
JC, you're from the South. I mean, you get down to around 30 degrees. That's cold.
Oh, 30 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, down there, yeah, man. Boy, 30 is a bone chilling.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bone chilling cold.
Bone chilling cold. It should be out of here though before the weekend. Championship weekend is coming up. New Mexico State and Liberty, 7:00 Friday night in the Conference USA title game, and then immediately following 8:00 on ABC. Top 6 matchup, Oregon and Washington. Oregon's a 9.5-point favorite in that ball game. Saturday kicks off at noon on ABC. Oklahoma State and Texas in the Big 12 title game in Arlington. The Longhorns 14.5-point favorites. It'll be followed up immediately by the Dogs and the Tide. Alabama is a 5.5-point dog, but they're the home team, if that matters, in Atlanta.
They're not going to
SMU. Huh?
They won't have any more fans.
Yeah, no.
Not than the Dogs.
SMU and Tulane will kick at 4 on ABC from Yeoman Stadium down there in New Orleans. Tulane looking to go 12-1. SMU is 10-2 on the year. That's a sneaky good game, boys and girls. Tulane's a 4-point favorite in it. This one is probably going to be the dud of the day. Michigan and Iowa at 8:00 on Fox. Just so everybody knows, if this was next year, we'd be watching Michigan and Ohio State again this weekend. But Michigan's a 23-point favorite over the Hawkeyes. And then you got Louisville and Florida State. Louisville looking to win the ACC. They are just 2.5-point underdogs in Charlotte, 8:00 on Saturday night to the 5th-ranked Noles, of course, who are playing without Jordan Travis. But once again, I mean, let's just be honest. You know, Oregon and Washington on ABC on Friday night is going to be special. And I think you could see a lot of points in the game. But Georgia and Alabama, the SEC once again will steal the show this weekend with probably the most watched conference title game out there. And then based on who wins all these things, right, guys? Let the infighting begin, because there's going to be a lot of folks saying we deserve to be in because.
Oh, chaos was knocking on the door this past weekend, and just nobody let it in, you know? It was right there.
I mean, what do you do with Florida State? God, it's just so. So the big thing is if Georgia loses. Because let's say they lose by a point to Alabama. How do you keep that team out of the playoff if you're really wanting the 4 best teams? How do you keep Ohio State out? I mean, I just don't know. I would not want to be the committee this year, but if my theory holds, and my theory is usually correct about that bunch, they're kind of old school, all of them. They're still living in the time where undefeated means everything, and I still think it does. But
I don't think it does.
Man, you know,
who would you take today, Oregon or Florida State, if they played?
Oregon.
Okay.
Oh, right now, assuming they beat Washington.
Yep, right. Florida State versus Ohio State. Who would you pick?
Ohio State.
Okay. Who would you pick? Florida State versus Texas.
Texas.
All right. Florida State versus Alabama.
Alabama.
Florida State versus Missouri.
Florida State.
Missouri.
I mean, Missouri's playing as good as anybody right now.
I just wanted to see what you thought there, because if you think that this 2-loss team is better than this team with no losses, then Florida State essentially has no prayer getting in this.
I mean, and I don't know. You know, I mean, Florida State. Look, I was impressed with their win over Florida. I mean, I thought that's an environment you can go into and lose. Do you see the Florida kid swat his coach's hand away when he was going in the game?
Yes.
Jeez, dude, he would be off my team tomorrow. That's so disrespectful. And that's part of their – I'm not going to get into what the problem the Gators have. There's too many problems around Columbia for me to get into that, and they did win.
Billy Napier appears to be safe. If he wasn't, he'd be gone by now.
They'd have fired him today. Yeah. I mean, but the problem is, you know, people talk about Carolina's schedule next year. Florida's schedule's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, their non-conference are UCF, Miami, and Florida State, and then one cupcake. and you playing UCF in and of itself, but Gus Malzahn coaches them, and they're going to want a piece of the Gators. And Florida State's still going to be pretty good. And, you know, and then they have like Texas and Georgia and all these. I mean, their conference, they did not draw a favorable conference schedule either. So how much, I mean, if they go 6-6 next year, are you going to keep him? Because that'd be a pretty good year against that schedule. What if they go 6-7 and Florida has 4 straight losing seasons, 3 under him?
Well, interesting enough, 3 of the teams that go to Tallahassee are 3 of the same teams that come to Columbia. Ole Miss, LSU, and Texas A&M all go to I said Tallahassee. Ole Miss, LSU, and Texas A&M all go to Gainesville, and they all come to Columbia as well. Isn't that strange? Carolina's 4th home game is Missouri, and Florida's 4th home game is Kentucky.
Carolina plays I swear to God, this is what they did for Carolina's schedule. All right, who hadn't they played in a while? Well, they hadn't played LSU at home since 2008 because you had a cancel game in there. All right, well, they're on. Ole Miss hadn't been to Columbia since 2009. Oh, they're on. Gamecocks haven't been to Alabama since it's 09. All right, send them to Alabama. All right, what games have a trophy? Texas A&M and Missouri. All right, they're still on the schedule. We should probably give them Vanderbilt because they got to play Alabama at LSU. All right, Vanderbilt's on. And then they always are going to play Kentucky every year regardless. So that was easy for the I'll talk about this schedule being weird this year, next year, and we'll see how the order of it goes. But that's different, guys. I mean, no Tennessee, no Florida, no Georgia.
I think 10 days.
They've played those teams for 30 years, man. Every year.
Yeah,
Florida,
in the next week, 2 weeks, next 2 weeks, we should have the schedule.
Yeah. At Oklahoma, I mean, I'd probably rather play Oklahoma than Texas next season just because of some feedback I got about Oklahoma's roster from a couple of people that should know. They're not quite ready, and unfortunately the game's out there, and you see the Crimson and Cream and the interlocking OU. I mean, that's tough. It's still going to be tough to go win, but I'll take that over. I mean, since everybody's having to play one of those two, I will take Oklahoma over Texas. Just because of their roster situation. Texas is good, but and I know they stump their toe sometimes against good teams and stuff, and they could easily screw it up, but I would probably lean more towards wanting to play Oklahoma.
Well, they are. Good news. So, and I'm planning to go to that game, as a matter of fact.
And they lost their OC to Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby.
Yeah, Jeff Lebby, and that's kind of where I was going with this conversation because he's gone. He's at Mississippi. I think that's a good hire for Mississippi State. And honestly, I think that A&M's hire not only is a good it's rare in my opinion that you can have a safe hire and a good hire. And I think that's both. I think Mike Elko is both a safe hire and a good hire. Does that make any sense? You know what I'm saying? Like he's got a floor. I think he has a floor. But I also feel like he can coach his way into raising the ceiling. So that's what I mean by safe and also good. I think it's a good fit for A&M.
The AD and the powers that be out there and we'll see because if Elko flops and Mark Stoops goes to say Iowa and starts winning, you're gonna look like a bunch of idiots because they didn't quite Shiano Mark Stoops, but they Shiano'd Mark Stoops. And so, I don't know. I tend to think Elko should have been the guy from the beginning. They needed a football coach. Ross Bjork and those folks out there, I think, recognize that. Go for substance over style with this hire. And Mike Elko, he's proven it at every level as a coordinator, and then's proven it at Duke. Last coach at Duke that took an SEC job did pretty well last time I checked. So
guy named head ball coach.
Head ball coach. Shoot, yeah, I just went to Duke University. So I think that's a good one.
Jeff Lebby, when he became the leader in the clubhouse, it felt like, and it's probably easy to feel this way, because it makes sense, but it felt like they wanted to get back in line with what they were after with Mike Leach. Like, we can't hire Mike Leach again, but we want to get back in line with being that type of football program. That's going to be our identity around here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what JC pointed out anyway, would be the hire for them to make was, you need to go back to being a special prep. Because you're not going to win there with the same formula as, Alabama or, some big name Georgia, somebody like that. You're not going to beat them at their own game.
Yeah, you needed that. The only thing I question about it is, and look, I think Leach did a great job there because he hired the right DC, and so I think Kiefer Levy's going to be defensive coordinator. Hiring an offensive whiz like Dan Mullen is different than hiring a Mike Leach or Jeff Lebby, though, because what and you think back to the Heupel era at Missouri as an example of this. What they do is they chunk it all. They're going to go really, really fast, chunk it all over the yard, whatever. It's a defensive coordinator's nightmare. Mississippi has way more defensive talent in it as a state than offense. They always have. And you got another guy over there that's pretty good at dialing up offense too. Mullen was not. Mullen is a creative offense and a special prep, like Phil said, but it's also based in power run game. At that school, you can always find. I mean, they always, for some reason, have a gigantic line on both lines of scrimmage. They always have linemen. I mean, they don't struggle up there. They always have a good in-your-face running game and stuff when they've been good. So it is going back to and saying, all right, we're changing the DNA here, and going to go back to what Coach Leach had for us, and heck, it may work. Jeff Lebby's father-in-law, by the way, is Art Briles. And it's like we're gonna sell out and go with that offense, and more power to them. I mean, if they want to run that, great. They need a quarterback, they need this, they need that. But I'm with you, JB. I think that's kind of what the thought process was there, and away they go. So we'll see. It's and Jay Diz Sellers is going to be in a college offense. I don't know what. Anyway, I'm not getting into all that.
With some of the transfer stuff and like college football, like head coach openings and like it. So Will Rogers, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago around here. There's probably going to be a big time quarterback transferring in the SEC. If anybody's paid attention, you probably all know who that is by now. But like, had he chosen to stay, he can still stay. He doesn't have to leave. But like, would Jeff Lebby fit what Will Rogers is after? Will Rogers wants to play in a little bit more of a pro style, quote unquote, pro style offense. You've got a bunch of other head coach positions out there. Like, look in the Mountain West, JC. Think about this for a second. Brady Hoke retired. San Diego State. That's a good job. The San Diego State job. The Boise State's in the Mountain West Championship this weekend at 7-5, and they without a coach. They fired their head coach and went to the title game. I mean, come on.
Factor in the computer models.
I mean,
that's weird. That was so weird.
Did they get rid of their head coach? Oh, they're up +1.
Andy's gone. Okay, you're in. New Mexico, that's still open. Obviously, the SEC jobs are full. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith is leaving for Michigan State, right? So you got Oregon State.
I didn't like
Syracuse
that.
is open.
Yeah, that was odd.
No, I didn't either. He's better than that. I think he is.
I think he is, and I think leaving your alma mater like that at this time. I mean, I guess money talks. You got to take care of your family, but I mean, Michigan State.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was making to take care of his family out.
Right.
I mean, they're probably paying him. I mean, they've got money there, but I just.
And you've got Syracuse, you got Duke, you got Indiana. Houston is a sneaky good job now. It's in the Big 12. It's going to pay you a little bit of money. ULM fired Terry Bowden, so that's open. And then, is there any more?
No, none that I know of. Houston is a good job, and with the Big 12, with the doing like it's doing, and Oklahoma, Texas, although they haven't been the two best teams in the league consistently lately, they're kind of taking the lid off, and so there's all kinds of like upward ability in that league. You're adding the Western teams into. I mean, look, Arizona had a great year this year. Jed Fish was up for some jobs. I think A&M had him in their crosshairs. But, any school in that league, though, if you look at the resources and you kind of look at history and have they been there before and all that, any school in that league could end up rising to the top. I mean, it's wide open. So Houston, with their resources and the money they have, and they are I know they used to be a group of five. Now they've got money. Philman Fertitta, look him up. He's one of their big boosters. Tillman Fertitta, my name, not Philman. Tillman Fertitta. It could be a sleeping giant for the right person to go in there and take the job, and they'll swing big. Just like when they hired Dana Holgerson, they'll swing big. I think Dana sort of lost his magic a little bit. To be truthful, that never really got it going at Houston, like he did at West Virginia. But we'll see what happens. But
well, and that Duke job now, that Duke job's a good job right now. Mike Elko is leaving some players.
Yeah,
and it's a good little job. I mean, you're gonna see some names come up for that job, and they probably should. So
I think so, and they can pay. I mean, they got money at Duke. I mean, they tried to match Elko. I mean, A&M, you can't really. I mean, look, man, A&M's just got an abundance of it. It's a temptress of a job, right? Because they've never won. I mean, they haven't. A&M hasn't sniffed a national.
Maybe he'll be the first to break from the siren song, though. I mean, it's like they throw money at it, but where's the results?
It's the type of guy he's 46. Young.
Yeah.
I can make the argument right now. And Phil, we got one more quick break, right?
Yeah, we gotta grab one more.
Okay, I can make the argument right now, and then we'll go to break, and we'll finish this when we get back. That Duke and Houston are the best jobs open in college football. Pick one or the other for whatever reason you want to pick. But let's step aside because we got to hit this. We got to pay bills. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
This holiday season, you can give a gift like never before. Hey guys, it's JB. Rescues in Resin produces custom designed wood and resin products. From tables to wall art, coasters to cutting boards, and pretty much anything you can dream. Proud Gamecocks and veteran-owned, Dustin and Tabitha are creating products that will blow your family and friends away when they take the wrapping paper off this Christmas. Check them out in the Chief Sports app now and get your custom order in before it's too late. Rescues in Resin are also proud supporters of Carolina Rise and proud partners of the Chief Sports Network. Rescues in Resin at gmail.com or in the Chief Sports app is where you can find them. Change your gift-giving game today by ordering a custom design through our friends Tabitha and Dustin and Rescues in Resin.
My company is Billy G's Carolina Barbecue. We are based in Columbia, South Carolina. And we have 2 lines of sauces and a spice rub. I mean, when people try our product, they know it's a gourmet product and it can go on any type of food. It's not surprisingly delicious, it's expectedly delicious.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
All right, final quick segment here, but good news. We've got 4 more days this week, and then we have 5 the next week, and then 5 the next week. You know how it works. 5-day work weeks. What's the better job, Phil? I'll start with you. Houston or Duke?
Oh, let's see. I like Houston. No, I think the Big 12 is like essentially wide open at this point to make some good moves. And I think if you play the portal right and can throw some money behind it, then you can really set yourself up towards the top of that conference in a small amount of time.
What do you think, JC?
I like Houston better too as a job, just because you don't have to battle the academics. I think you can get in there with a driver's license. It's not a powerhouse academically.
Not wrong.
The city of Houston puts out so much talent surrounding the metro area. You've got Texas to recruit to. Now you have the Big 12 to recruit to. You get the right guy in there, and the ceiling is higher. Like when Tom Herman was there, if Tom Herman was there coaching with the team he had in this Big 12, no Texas, no Oklahoma, they would have been up near the top of the conference. Same when Jack Pardee was there running the run and shooting Andre Ware through for 700, 800 yards a game or whatever. It's just so much easier to get talent there than it is at Duke. Now, Duke is a better job than it once was, I think. I think David Cutcliffe did a lot of good there, getting the facilities up, getting them kind of used to winning some games and not being at the bottom. But, we talked about Northwestern and let's take the big four academic schools. Let's take Northwestern, Vandy, Stanford, and Duke. I think Stanford, because of their history and tradition, would be the best job. I think Vandy would be the worst job. So it's Northwestern or Duke. The only difference there is Northwestern has not only beautiful facilities right on Lake Michigan that they spent money on. They're about to redo their stadium, and it's going to look like a mini Mercedes-Benz. I mean, it's going to be badass. I mean, Duke still plays at Wallace Wade, which has history, but not that much. And Northwestern, honest guys, had Illinois and my boy Belima not blown it against Iowa and then blew it the next week, Northwestern would have gone to the Big Ten championship game this year.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit of like, hey, screw you, we're going to win anyway. Now, the expanded Big Ten and all that, who knows? But so I would think Duke would be right there, similar to Northwestern. But I would have to go Houston, man. That's just me. What do you think, Jamie? You seem like you have a different opinion.
No, I got to get over this cough. I agree. I think that I would in the Big 12, like you can go to Houston and you can get kids in easier. It's easier to recruit. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I mean, the one thing I would say about Duke is that it's like it probably depends on what type of quality of life you want. Do you want to live in Houston or do you want to live in Durham? Where you actually have like a college campus and things like that.
Yeah, I'd go Durham there.
I'd be in Durham. I wouldn't want to live in Houston. But as far as like, this is just a great place for me to coach and make a bunch of money. Yeah, I think that Houston would be the one. But to each his own. They'll find somebody. They're going to find somebody here pretty soon. Duke is too.
Yeah. I think they'll get it back. They could if they're smart, they'll make a good hire. I mean, if they're smart, they'd make a good hire. Everybody talks about Jamie Chadwell. If Chadwell if they would think about it, that would be the type of guy because you're going to get a certain amount of talent there anyway. Recruiting Texas, it doesn't really matter if you're some ace recruiter or not. You have to be good at evaluation, which he is. And then you have a system that gives you like a leg up against the rest of that league. So, I mean, yeah, because like I said, I mean, who's the powerhouse in the Big 12 next year? Utah? Would that be?
Yeah,
Utah?
I mean, that's
Oklahoma State, Utah,
right?
TCU if they bounce back.
Yeah,
everybody see TCU 5-7 this year. By the way, the Horned Frogs 5-7.
Right.
Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
It's hard to recover getting your doors off in the national championship game.
Clint, I'm not banned about the Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy's great. So
Gundy's my guy.
He's 40.
We are out of time here. 159.
He's come after me. I'm 40. I'm a man.
40.
Mike Gundy. All Mike Gundy does is piss people off that aren't fans of his and win. He's in the championship game again. My guy lost to South Alabama at home 33-7. Yet he's in the championship game. All he does is win, and no matter what. Hey, don't forget JC and Morgan at 3:15 today, guys.
3:15.
That's 4:15 local. That's
4:15 local.
Oh, it's 4:15. Oh,
yes, 3:15 your time.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. Well, I got 2 hours then.
Yeah. Yeah. I still got to go get the kids.
Gotcha.
We will
make
be
sure
back
Mike
tomorrow.
knows that, Phil.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
We'll continue to recap 23 football season. We got plenty to get to. Hoops and all kinds of stuff. Hale will be here tomorrow. Mike Morgan will be here tomorrow. Get Mike's 10,000-foot view of the entire 12-game schedule South Carolina play this year.
I'm probably going to be off tomorrow, by the way. I'm going to do Wednesday. I have my one day off tomorrow.
Oh, you just throwing that on us the day before.
I have my reasons. I will
We'll figure it out.
But I want to let the audience know because the numbers go up when I'm not on.
It's true.
They do, actually.
Thanks to John Whittle and Pat DiMarco, and always thanks to all of you. JC, Mad Dog, myself. See you tomorrow at 11 on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.